Hi, everyone. I'm Miguel Rivera, and this is Real Talk with Miguel Rivera. You're listening to Real Talk with Miguel Rivera, a podcast that inspires individuals to connect, build community, and pursue their passion. My name is Miguel Rivera, and I'm an educator, community advocate, and executive director of Dream Big Project. And I'm sitting down with passionate and inspiring individuals to talk about their stories, the lessons they've learned, and how they're making an impact. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the podcast. Today, I have a very special guest joining us today. Her name is Dr. Jacqueline Sandoval. She is a doctor of psychology. She has been in the mental health field for approximately 8 years. Currently, she works as a forensic evaluator with individuals who have been found incompetent to stand trial, not guilty by reason of insanity, and offenders with a mental disorder. Dr. Sandoval emphasizes the importance of being your authentic self in all areas of one's life. Dr. Sandoval,
Hi.
how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you, Miguel?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good as I can be. Thank you very much. Before we move on, just kind of want to give a shout out to all of our attendees on social media. If you're here on Zoom or wherever you may be watching this or listening, want to give a shout out to every single one of you. Thank you for supporting the podcast, for supporting us today. I just kind of want to highlight, give you an overview of some of the things we may be diving into. Not everything, obviously, but some things. So obviously, we'll go into Dr. Sandoval's background, her journey, a little bit about what she's gone through, and ultimately how she's led to where she is today. She's an instructor. She's a doctor. She's gone through, adversity, overcome so many things, and I'm very excited to dive into all of that and share that with you all who are listening. So just a heads up on some of those things that we'll be touching into. And at the same time, want to encourage you all, if you are live in social media, Zoom, wherever you may be, as far as live, feel free to contribute, ask comments, engage with us. We welcome that. So by any means, engage with us. Yeah,
No, definitely. I'm an open book. So whatever questions you want to ask, it's
there we
free.
go. I like it. I like it. So, I know some people too are like, yo, didn't I just see her like
Yeah.
live like a couple of days ago? Like, so, just a heads up on that. It was some tech issues, so we're running it back. So you get a part 2 or part 3 if technically, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, we're running it back today. But Jackie, Dr. Sandoval.
You can call me Jackie. It's
Okay.
cool. It feels
Okay,
a little
cool.
weird
I
for
know, right? I was like, wait,
for my friends to call me
I
that.
know, right? But you're actually coming from class. More
Yes.
specifically, you're an
hmm
instructor at the School of remind me again?
Yeah, the Chicago School of Professional
Chicago School
Psychology.
of
Yeah.
Professional
So
Psychology.
my alma mater. I
Right.
graduated from there with my master's and my doctorate, and so I went back into teaching because I really appreciated what my professors taught me, and there were so many mentors and professors that I looked up to.
Right.
And so I really found a passion in wanting to provide that same experience to future students. Because
I like that.
I remembered my experience in specifically the master's program, how inspired I was by my
Mm.
professors, and oh, this field is super cool. There's so many opportunities. I'm learning so much. So
It kind of gets you a little more excited
yeah.
to like be in, first of all, be in the program. You're already there, so you're excited already, but
hmm
really kind of hearing more, learning more from them directly, while like not only are they your professors, but they're doing the work,
Exactly.
right? They're doing the work.
Yeah, and that was the mission for the school, is to really hire professionals who are in the field actively. So you're actually bringing your real life experiences into the classroom.
Right.
And so I really truly did want to give back, because the same way that my undergrad professors sparked
Mm.
that passion in me for psychology, I was like,
Right.
I want to give that back to people.
Nice. So going back to that or sticking to that, excuse me, undergrad, right? Let's start with just
Yes.
kind of your background and schooling,
hmm
right? So you went to a 4-year university right out of high school. You didn't go to community college, UCSB.
Yeah.
Um, you got your bachelor's in psychology,
hmm hmm
and then would you mind diving into that for those who don't know?
Yeah, for sure. So graduated high school 2009
Hey,
from
shout out to
yeah,
'09.
'09
Woo.
Lancers.
Oh, what? I
And
also
so
graduated with Jackie, so
yeah, we're same graduating class. And so yeah, I went straight to a 4-year university, and that was more so, from a personal standpoint where, I just my upbringing growing up, I was like, I need to get the heck out of Norwalk. I
Mm,
need to get the heck out of my house mainly.
right.
And so I mean we can get into that. But so yeah, I went to UCSB. I was declared a bio major because
Okay.
ideally or initially I thought, well, I'm going to go to medical school.
Mhm.
And I think I held on to that, if I'm being honest, because one of my dad's dreams was to be a doctor. And so I was like,
Mm,
okay, well, my dad wasn't able to be a doctor. So let me try to
right.
fulfill his dream, like make him proud that way or whatever, maybe.
Right.
And so I was a pre med for about 3 years. I remember my junior year thinking, I don't feel fulfilled. I don't like these classes. I'm failing chemistry. I'm
Mm.
like,
What am I doing? Do I wanna do this?
yeah, and I was like, this isn't fulfilling me. I'm already hating it. I can imagine what, medical school is going to be like
Right.
or anything. And so I remember going to my counselor and saying, "Hey, what degree can I switch to? What major can I switch to that I can still complete on time and I don't have to like delay my
Yeah.
graduation?" And
What
she's
year was this?
my junior year.
Okay.
Yeah, so I had already completed almost all prereqs for,
Dang.
bio,
Right.
with the exception of chemistry because I kept failing and failing. And so I was like, okay, maybe this isn't for me. But yeah, and so she's like, well, you have a lot of psych classes. And I was like, well, I really did like psych. I remember I think his name was Dr. Fridlin or something
Mm.
like that. And he was just amazing. His brain and the way he taught psychology, it made me want to take more and more classes. So I found myself taking more classes in
Mm.
psychology because of
Okay.
that. And so I was like, well, I really like psychology too. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but I'm down to pick
Right.
psychology because I'll graduate and I like it.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Let's graduate. That was the goal.
That was exactly the goal.
By that time, you didn't have an interest, like, in the background of psychology, like, as you do now? Like, was that not really in your mind at the time?
Yeah, I honestly didn't know how I was gonna use my degree. I didn't go in with the mindset of I'm getting my psych degree or I'm switching into a psych major to
Mhm.
become a therapist.
Right.
I think more so gradually events in my life led me in that path.
Got it.
I know I talked about it last time, but one of the major events that kind of was the catapult for me going into that profession was when my friend completed suicide. And
Mm.
I think that sent me, if I'm being honest, into like a spiral mentally.
Mm.
I went into like my own little dark place.
Right.
And I realized, like, oh crap, like, I've always been really good at helping people. I've always been really good at connection and connecting to
Mhm.
people and
Mhm.
being empathetic and understanding. Maybe I could be a therapist.
Mm.
And so that was kind of more of the segue into getting into the field that I'm in
That
now.
makes sense, and I think if I remember correctly, your friend who completed suicide, that was during, like, your junior year, your
Yeah.
senior okay,
My junior year
while you were
of college.
right,
Yeah.
while you were making that transition of majors.
Yeah. I mean, cool.
Did that was just a coincidence? Just
Maybe
okay.
coincidence. Maybe. Yeah. It was just
Wow.
all, kind
Wow.
of
Yeah,
in the same.
that's tough. That's really and he was also going to UCSB, your
Um,
friend, or
I think he was attending the community college,
okay, okay.
SBCC, but he was still part of one of the fraternities that I was,
Right,
really affiliated with and stuff.
right,
So that was how we became friends and stuff, and how I came to know him
right,
because he was a part of
okay.
that frat. Yeah.
Couple of things come to mind. One, your experience at UCSB as a university, right? Party
Oh yeah.
school. I want to kind of go into that, and then the other thing before I forget, you mentioned you really wanted to leave home in high
hmm
school, right? So I'm interested in kind of what's going on there.
Yeah. Let's see. So we'll touch on maybe the schooling first and all
Okay,
that. We'll touch on that. So, yeah, I'm assuming you want us to know how did I navigate the
right.
social life,
Yes, I want to
the
know all about
all
it.
of that. Oh
Hmm.
man, I think if I'm being so honest, I barely graduated.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I think it was such a hard transition, and I think I don't know the experience for you or many other students, but I don't feel like Norwalk prepped us well enough, right? To
Yeah.
get into or transition
Right. Oh, absolutely.
into college and
Yeah,
stuff.
no.
So it was rough.
Even as even as a high school counselor myself,
Yeah.
right? As I'm like working with these students, right? I'm thinking back on like I didn't my counselor didn't do half of what I'm doing for them,
Mhm.
and I wish I would have kind of been guided in certain, a little bit
Yeah.
more informed and whatnot. And granted, like that students also have to reach out type thing,
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
But yeah, so I hear you on that.
Yeah, but especially for like us first generations, like,
Exactly.
I don't think there's a lot of
Mhm.
advocacy or help for like the first, at least not back in our time when we
Right.
graduated back in 2009. Like, I was the first person who went to a 4-year
Mhm. Me too.
university.
Yep.
No one else in my family. My parents barely
Yep.
even graduated high school, let
Right.
alone like attended any college courses. So
Right.
there was no guidance from them. So it's like you're literally
Mhm.
navigating everything on your own.
Yeah.
And then in high school, where I barely even had to lift a finger and I would still freaking get A's and B's or
Right.
whatever,
Right.
and
Yeah.
then
Mhm.
you're
Me too.
thrown into these hard ass college courses. And
Right.
I'm like, okay, I feel really dumb. Like, I
Mhm.
don't know what I'm
Right.
doing.
Yeah, I can relate, like, first generation, no one in my family went to college, even community
Hmm.
college. Parents didn't even finish high school, like,
Yeah.
so I'm the first one just exploring all this, really thinking like, "What am I doing?" Just really feeling like I didn't belong,
Yeah.
right? That whole imposter syndrome feeling,
Hmm.
essentially. So no, definitely first gen experience is really a culture shock,
Yeah.
because you're just like, what is this going to turn into? Am I going to be able to do it? And all these questions. So
Yeah.
definitely.
And then, yeah.
Yeah, go
And
for
then
it.
came with the freedom. Like, I was free.
True.
I didn't have any parents. I didn't have, no
Mm,
one telling me you have a curfew and all these
right.
different things. And again,
Right.
yeah, Santa Barbara is known, at least back in the day, to be like one of the
Right.
biggest party schools. So I
Right.
was like navigating all of that too.
Right.
I remember my first year, my first semester of UCSB, I was put on academic probation.
No
Yeah.
way. You were
Yeah,
wilding out.
I was
Sheesh.
like, I'm partying and blah blah, and school was not. I think for me, like, I didn't. It was just a means for me to get out.
Mhm.
It was never like a get out of my home,
Oh, I see.
right? It
Okay.
was never like, and never in my mind did I think I'm gonna graduate and go to graduate school
Mm.
into that capacity. Like, I was not like a set in stone. Yes, I was a bio major,
Right.
but it was never like a solidified thing that I'm trying to go to med school or I'm trying to do all these different
Right.
things. It's kind of like what happens,
Right.
right?
You weren't really thinking that far ahead.
Yeah, it was literally like in the moment, like almost kind of like a teenage, but you're not thinking of like the
Right.
consequences ahead.
Right.
So I was
Yeah, I
day by
remember
day.
I remember UCSB just even before getting to college or maybe some sometime before college, everyone wanted to go there just to go to a
Mhm.
party, right? During summer or spring break,
Yeah.
right? So as you know firsthand, just kind of what that is, what that's
Mhm.
like. Damn near not even almost graduating or being put on probation.
Yeah.
Wow,
That
that's
was the
wild.
reality check for me, where I was like, "Oh crap, like I got put on academic probation." And that for
Right.
me, I was like, "All right, now I got to really like focus and put more effort into school
Mhm.
while still being able to have the full college experience." And so
Right.
being able to navigate all that was difficult. And I think what helped was having like-minded friends who also were serious about school but
Mhm.
also wanted to have fun, and kind of keeping each other accountable of like, hey, we got
Right.
an exam to study for, maybe we shouldn't go out tonight, let's just go out tomorrow instead, or
Right.
things like that, right?
Right, right. Did you meet new friends out there, or did you have anyone go with you out there as far as, like, high school or just anyone from other schools that you already knew before going
um
to Santa Barbara?
I had one friend from high school, and we actually ended up dorming together.
Mhm. Oh, cool.
But then I ended up branching out and making my own friends, and I had like my own, people that I hung out with and talked to on a daily and even dormed with, and
Mhm.
roomed with, and that were like aside from,
Right,
yeah.
right. Speaking of high school, I mean, Do you still are you still close to anyone from high school or still kinda keep in touch with anyone at all? What is that like?
Um, I for
Don't
sure
mean to put you on the spot or
no,
nothing,
no,
but
you're fine. There's a few that I still talk to here and there. Madeline,
Oh, okay,
I
yeah,
literally just talked to her yesterday.
cool.
But the other girls, it's just more of like we'll follow up here and there, like, hey,
Right.
once in a while. Again, no beef, no nothing, but it's just, we understand. We grow up. We're at the point where most of us have families. Most of us are either married with
Mhm,
kids or have kids or
mhm.
anything. And so you just understand like you grow
Right,
apart because now your priorities are different or your
right,
views are different and things like that. And but there's
right.
no hate. It's just, hey, once in a
Yeah,
while, just checking in, like, what's up? How's it going?
right,
Hope you're
right,
doing well. Like,
right. I think there's that, just kinda thinking back when we were in high school and also just talking with students now again, I work with high school students, so I'm
mm-hmm,
always, in that conversation with them, but a lot of times I don't know if, students high school students tend not to think so far ahead or really kinda know what's to come, like, just think about us, right? So,
mm-hmm.
like, after high school, you think, "Oh, like, I'm gonna have more time with my friends," but really it's just a whole new ball game, right? Like,
Yeah,
you're completely start an entire new life, right? Your friends are not there. It's not like that
mm-hmm,
social club that you're used to all the time in high school. You're literally starting your own life as an adult, right? Going into
for sure.
adulthood, working, doing all that stuff. Um, so yeah, yeah, definitely. So if anybody, I know I have a few young listeners. I don't want to call anybody out, but I know people, former students and whatnot, but they're
Yeah.
experiencing it right now. So
Yeah, it changes. And, a lot of the times we are resistant to that change because it's
right,
unfamiliar and
hmm,
it's uncomfortable. And obviously, with any type of change, um,
true,
you don't want it, and you try to cling on to what was as much as you can, or and that's okay. But also embracing the change that comes.
mm,
You when you are willing to let go and less resistant to that change, you allow room for other people in your life or other
right,
opportunities, and just
right.
kind of see it as that.
Yeah, I think that's something we take with us in life in general, right?
Mhm.
That whole resistance or embracing it, however we want to go about it, change is coming, right? Regardless,
Yeah.
whether we want it or not, it's coming. So our relationship with that and ourselves and how we handle all of that and navigate it is really, really important
Mhm.
as we learn as you get older,
Yeah.
or you can choose to not learn about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's an important lesson too.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. And even too, like, understanding just because a change is coming and you accept it, it's okay to still grieve what was
Mm,
and learn to feel those feelings, right? Learn to
right.
grieve the relationships that you used to have with those people to fully heal from it. Like, I'm not going to sit
Hmm.
here and say like, there's times where I grieve the relationships that I had with with the girls. And I mean, all of us
Right.
hanging out. And I'm like, dang,
Right.
like, I really miss those times. I really miss the
Mhm.
times we were all together. And
Mhm.
hanging out and this and that. I miss those relationships. And that's fine. You can miss them, but also not living in the past, not living in
Mm.
those relationships, because
Mhm.
then you don't appreciate what's in front of you and
Right.
the new friendships and the new relationships that you
Right.
have.
Like, you don't give yourself that time and space to grow and evolve
Mhm.
and flourish, right, and do all these awesome things that
Yeah.
we are capable of, right? Because 'Cause we're
For
so
sure.
stuck in what's the past or what
Mhm.
could have been or what if and this and that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I totally feel you on that. Um, just sticking to this topic really quick with high school, UCSB, academics, the preparation to get to UCSB as
Mhm.
far as like were you always just a good student or did it come naturally to you to just kind of excel, get good grades,
Mhm.
or were you just like really big on like prepping, studying, collaborating, office hours or teacher like tutoring hours
Mhm.
or like kind of how did you cuz like for it's difficult for some people, right? So how
Yeah.
did you prepare yourself or was it just easy for you?
I think for me, more or less, it was more of like an easier thing. At least in high school, I've never had to really put extra effort into my academics.
Okay. Yeah, I
Um,
feel you on that.
but again, you would notice when I did have a lack of effort because I would not I think that was my freshman year of high school is when, like, I really didn't really care.
Right.
And then when I started caring, I realized, like, "Oh, this is easy."
Right,
Like,
right. Okay, okay.
yeah. And then when
Yeah.
I realized I want to go to college because I want to get away, and for me, I was like, community college isn't an option because I know I can't live away from my home.
Right, you would be in the same spot.
Yeah, and so I was like, "Okay, well, my next option is moving away for college, and that's
Mm,
going to a 4-year." And so that's whether it's UCSB, UCSD, whatever, but I know I need to get away.
right,
And so
right.
that made me, like, hustle and, like, get good grades and take all the AP classes and do all that
Yeah,
and be a well-rounded student so that
right,
I can leave to college.
right, right. And you declared bio as your major.
Mhm.
I mean, that's a difficult, it's very impacted major, I feel like, as far as like the
Yeah.
STEM and
Mhm.
just STEM in general, science in general. So were you just kind of heavy on the sciences? Like, was that your strength, or I know you mentioned your dad was kind of, you know, um,
An influence.
yeah, a big
Mhm.
influence on you with that.
Mhm.
Um, so were you like, okay, that's the direction I'm going in. I'm gonna take all the biochem, physics, whatever classes that you needed, or like, did you go heavy on science, or would that just came about as because you declared it on your application?
Are you talking about in high school or
Yeah, high
in
school. Like, did you go heavy on just
uh
sciences to end up becoming or getting accepted
yeah.
as a bio major
Um
because it's so impacted? You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Honestly, I think I just took the regular course, but, like, I made sure I was taking the AP courses or, like, honors chemistry,
Oh, okay.
AP physics, AP calculus, AP, um, to kinda get a little bit more of a
Right.
mhm.
Yeah, I hated science. That's why
Yeah.
I'm bringing it up because 'cause I'm
Yeah,
like,
I know.
I don't know.
I
Yeah.
will say, what was her name? Miss Wu, the honors chemistry
Oh,
teacher?
yeah, Miss Wu. Shout
Yeah.
out to Miss Wu. Yeah, I
Yes.
remember her. She's cool.
She made me like chemistry, and I thought
Really?
I was really good at it, and then I went to UCSB, and I was like, "I suck at chemistry." And then they made me hate chemistry, so
She made me she made me feel like I had a chance in science.
she did.
Yeah, like, "Okay, I got this." Like, I know what I'm doing. It's fun, it's interesting,
Yeah, and
but
then
who else did I have? Miss Wu, who did I have for I had Miss Wu, I had Gutierrez, which I hated physics,
mhm.
and then there was someone else.
Miss Robertson, did you ever have her for
I
bio?
heard all about her, but never had her. I think she was, like, honors AP, I don't know, but,
Honors bio.
I heard didn't she make you work in there?
Yeah, she
Yeah.
was hardcore.
You said,
I
like,
rem
"Yeah, like, hell yeah."
No, I remember she would, like, put our work on the projector and, like, basically fuck, I don't wanna spread rumors. Fuck, you know what? Maybe I won't spread rumors because, like, what if, like, I just made that up in my head and it wasn't true?
Well, mm,
But I felt like
you have to say it now. No, I'm
I
just kidding.
know, but I think she would put our work and she would cover the name, obviously, to not put the student on blast, but basically be like, "This is, in other words, shit."
Oh, really?
I think so.
Okay, but she would cover names that you remember.
She wouldn't, like
Dang,
she wouldn't
okay.
out who did it, but
Right.
obviously, if it was you, you're just like, like,
She was like, "This work is
yeah.
trash. Whoever did this, you got an F."
Yeah, so
Someone, Jim Soul in the chat, shout out on YouTube. Flame I think those are flame emojis. Shout out to you, my boy. Um, okay, yeah, so
mhm,
Robertson, I
mhm.
heard that name a lot. I remember
Yeah.
that name. Also, who is that one teacher? God rest her soul, 'cause I think she passed, a while back. She was very strict. She rode a bike to work.
Oh,
Uh,
the PE
was she? I
teacher.
don't
She
remember.
was
Was she
PE.
PE?
Yes.
She was kind of an older lady.
Mhm, Miss
She was a
it started with the P, but I can't
I don't
remember.
remember. You
Yeah,
know what I'm talking
I
about
know
though,
exactly
right?
who you're talking
Everybody
about.
will talk
Yep.
about her.
Yep, she'd be riding down her Foster on her bike and
She recycled too, I think.
yes, and she would get so mad if you didn't.
Right.
Mhm.
And she was strict. Like people did not like
Yeah.
her. I
Yeah.
never had her, thank goodness, but
I think she was the PE
um
teacher.
PE?
Mhm.
Okay.
I think
Okay.
so.
Yeah, so I remember her.
Yeah.
I mean, should we just go down the list of teachers and just like they're some probably like listening, I don't know, but
Aw.
um teachers, shout out to Ken. Did you have Ken Cook? You know, Mr. Cook,
Mr. Cook,
auto
no, I
teacher?
never had
Okay, I
him,
never had him
no.
either, but I collaborate with him now
Yeah.
and the programs that he's in, and so shout out to Cook. Um, I mean, there's a lot of teachers we can talk
Amazing.
about.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Coach Gray, you know, shout out to Coach Gray, football coach. He's also a government coach. I mean, we can just go down the
Go da
list,
yeah.
but um, sticking to just kind of that
Mhm.
era or that time before we move on, I want to dive into American Heritage.
Yeah.
You know, that trip is like that's always just like
That's
out
always
there,
yep.
good experiences out there, right? So for those of you who don't know, and I'm pretty sure everyone been exposed to some opportunity of going to like a science camp or something
Mhm.
like that, whether you went or not. American Heritage was a trip we did in 8th grade,
8th
right?
grade,
Eighth
yeah.
grade, where we went to the East Coast, New York, Philly, all these
Virginia,
Virginia,
DC.
DC was really cool.
Mhm.
One particular experience that stands out to me or us that
Us, yeah.
we all you know were a part of it or exposed to it. We so what was labeled as we tagged on the Statue of Liberty. It was labeled like that, and that
It
was completely
was.
wrong.
Yeah, they
Oh
made
my,
it I felt like
come
we
on
were
now.
delinquents, like
Yeah, like
criminals.
I remember being told like we're gonna send you back home. You know, you're gonna
Yeah.
take the plane back. You know, you got to call your
Oh,
parents,
yeah,
like
that's right,
all of
huh?
that.
They did
And I
kinda
was
make it seem
like,
like that
yeah.
extreme.
And I was
Like
like, really? Like,
like what we did was like a felony or
right.
something, right?
I remember calling my mom and like, mom, like I just wrote on this, wooden pole or
Post, yeah.
yeah, and then so I'm just letting you know, like they're gonna call you if you hear it. You heard it from me, but I'll tell my mom, like she's not gonna trip.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was an interesting experience. So long story short, we took the what is it called?
The
The
ferry
ferry
to Staten
to
Island.
Staten Island. We got off on the dock and there's like all these wooden posts um and then each post was just tagged
Tagged
up.
up, yeah.
Yeah, like
I
literally
mean,
surrounded with, names and all kinds of stuff.
like so and so was here
Right,
and
right. And so I think it was on the way out. And it's really cool. Definitely visit, the island if you can. Check it all out.
Oh,
Very
see the
awesome experience,
Statue of
right?
Liberty, it's all
Yeah.
super, super cool.
I think you could even go. I didn't
I think you
know.
can
You
go
go inside,
inside. I
right?
think you can.
I've never done that, but yeah, I heard you can.
Yeah.
So
I don't we didn't do that, huh? We
no, we
just
just went in
okay.
the like the museum or the
Oh, okay.
yeah. But yeah, on the way out, we seen this post and it was all tagged up, and someone had a marker, and we were all signing our names on it. And then apparently, a teacher was watching us do this and waited until we finished, and then called us out on it. And then we got removed from certain activities, like
Mhm.
Broadway was
The Lion
one,
King play,
the Lion
yeah.
King play, even these. What is it? What is it? What is the center called? No, the
Oh, Times Square?
Times Square, yeah.
Oh,
Times Square
okay.
photo, there was a photo. I wasn't a part of it, so I don't
Wait,
know.
weren't you were not?
No. I
Oh.
really wanted to be a part of that, but
I still
yeah.
have that
You
picture.
do?
Yeah,
Yeah, I
I
don't have one.
do. Oh,
I
man,
don't.
yeah.
Imma just crop myself in there somehow.
I know,
All
just
like
but
20 years later. Uh, but yeah, so I remember that. We were just chilling. I'm gonna share a story. I don't know if you heard about this story, and it's regarding those of us who stayed back in the rooms
Mhm.
while you guys were all or while everyone else was out. I'm not gonna name any names because I don't wanna call anybody out. Shout out to Jim Sulligan. He put hashtag chemistry is hard. Chemistry hard. That's what he put. Okay.
Mhm.
Um, so anyways, there was my room with my roommates. I won't even name them just because I don't want to put anybody on blast, but there was four of us in that room. I had really, friends, roommates. It was cool, good times. And then the next door was another set of roommates who also
Mhm.
stayed back. So we're bored, right? We have to stay in our
Of
room,
course.
right? And then so I remember I had to use the restroom. Okay. My friend is in the restroom, right? And he locks the door. He locks the door. Okay, that's fine. And I'm like, yo, open up the door. I gotta go to the bathroom, open up. He's like, no, you're gonna wait. And I'm like, damn, he really like, I really have to go. So I went, saw that, you know what? I cannot hold this anymore. So, and I had to go number one, not number two. I take a piss. So you know what? I'm just gonna go in the sink because they had like a sink, a kitchen, and all that. I'm just gonna go in the sink. I don't care. And my friend was like, don't go in the sink. I was like, well, what do you want me
What
to where am I gonna go?"
what other
He's like,
options?
"Yeah." He's like, "Here, pee in this bottle." And I'm like, "All right, whatever." Like, I had to go that bad. I didn't really care, you know? So I went over to the trash can, I started peeing, and it was a Brisk iced tea bottle.
I think I remember this
And
story.
so I went, and then, my friend was like, "Yo, we should give it to so and so to and present it as an iced tea," and we just got it from an extra one. We just got an extra one from the machine. And I was like, "Yo, that's on you. Like, that's not me. I mean, it's me in there, but
But
it's not
not
on me." Um, Long story short, cleaned the bottle up, capped it, put it in the fridge because there was a fridge in there,
Oh my
and it was
god.
nice and cold.
Oh, no.
He goes like an hour later, maybe knocks on the door. "Yo, anybody want an iced tea? Like, we got an extra one. They gave us an extra one came out of the machine." And then someone was like, "Oh yeah, I'll take it." Uncapped it. I started drinking it, and then I won't go more into it, but that did happen. That's a true story.
Okay, I heard about
You
it.
did?
I did hear. I think, yeah, and I think I don't know how many heard, but yeah, definitely the story rings a
Yeah.
bell for
So
sure.
I think the sound effects aren't working, but it's all good. I had sound effects on the side. I wanted to use that, but
That's so.
yeah. So that's a true
Oh
story,
my gosh.
and
Yeah.
to this day,
Is that still talked about sometimes?
every now and then, it'll
Come up.
come up. It'll come up.
I mean,
Um,
it just goes to show how young and dumb we can be and how we don't really think
right,
about shit.
right. And yeah, that's wow. Um, Another part, I'll move on. I just have there's just all these stories that come up. One thing that came up, same roommates in that same, yeah, same roommates, same room, same hotel. Random, but I remember asking. It was like at nighttime. I remember asking a question in my head, right?
Mhm.
And then my friend, who was like, he answered it out loud,
What?
and I was like, "Yo, did I?" And I had told him I was like, I think it was my friend Sean. I was like, "Yo, did you hear the question I asked? Like, did I say it out loud?" He was like, "No, I didn't hear anything." And I was like, "You just answered." No, I said, "Why did you say that right now?" Like, because he spoke it out loud. He was like, "I don't even know." Now that, well, you answered my question in my head. So that was a trip.
What was the question? Do you
I don't
remember?
remember it. I just remember like being shocked.
Like, what the
Yeah, like what
heck?
the heck? But that was a
I would have
yeah.
been tripped out.
Right.
Like,
I was
you
tripping on
literally
that.
just read my mind or
Right, literally.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, and he didn't even know why he said what he said. So I remember that. Another quick story. Sorry, I'm just throwing all these stories
No,
out
you're
there.
good.
um,
Story time.
um, so another friend of mine who was also a roommate, we go to like George Washington's like estate, right? And he had like
Mhm.
a lake or a pond or a built-in something in his like
Yeah.
in his I think it was even a plantation. I don't know, but he had like this lake, right? And then this lake had like ropes that was like served as
Oh,
like
I
borders to
remember.
like
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
go past
yeah.
it. And I remember being at a distance, right? And I'm like looking at a friend of mine who was like by those ropes. And I see him like kind of trying to sit on the rope. And then he
He
like flips into the water. And I was like, "Yo, what?" And I was like, "Is that really him? Like that really happened?" And it did. And so I ran over
I
there and I pulled him
totally
out.
remember.
And I was like 20 yards away. Nobody else, like, there were people closer to him, didn't see him. And so to this day, I saved his life.
All the memories.
I
Well, you're
know.
you're a
I'm a
lifesaver. You
lifesaver.
are.
I literally saved lot no, I'm just kidding, but yeah, a lot of good
Oh my
memories though.
gosh. So many. I know. We go way
Yeah.
back. I was talking to your mom. I told her, I was like, yeah, I went on American Heritage with Miguel. She's like, you did? I was like, yeah. I was like, I've known him for so long. And she was all shocked, like,
Yeah.
oh,
She was probably chatting up
wow.
she can talk, so
Yeah.
she was probably talking about everything, so
Yep.
shout out to moms.
Yep.
Yeah, but, yeah, that was a good experience. So you go to UCSB, right? And then you graduate.
Yeah.
You're like, "Yo, I'm done."
Hmm.
What's next for you, or how do you go about things after that?
Yeah, at that point, I took a year off because I was really trying to figure out what do I want to do with my degree?
Mhm.
How do I want to go about helping people and kind of going into this profession. So I took
Right.
a year off, and in the meantime, I started volunteering at Metropolitan State Hospital that's here in
Mm,
Norwalk, and that hospital housed a lot of different populations, but the population I was working with was with individuals who were found incompetent to stand trial and individuals who were found not guilty by reason of insanity.
right.
And so I worked with that population, and then that really sparked an interest in the field that I'm in now, which is
Mm,
forensic psychology.
nice. You
Hmm.
said you found yourself working with that population by choice, by how, like, why is that the only population that's at the state hospital? Is that why you ended up working with them specifically?
No, they have other populations. They have
Okay.
individuals who are conserved,
Okay.
and so like kind of like skilled nursing type of thing, who are like
Got it.
greatly disabled.
Got it.
But that's a population that I kind of wanted to work with because at the end
Okay.
of the day, I always remember growing up, being a little girl, I was super into America's Most Wanted and like Forensic Files type of thing, or like I was
Mm.
always interested in those types of
Wait,
shows
since when?
since
Since
I was a kid.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
like I would always want to be watching America's Most Wanted, like the FBI watch list and
Right,
things like
right,
that. And so I also knew in a sense that that also piqued my interest. And so
right.
I was like, okay, let me try to work with.
Okay, so you like that,
Yeah,
okay.
so
Did you watch Cops? No, I'm just
I
kidding.
did. I
Oh, you
would watch.
did?
Yes, I liked all that stuff, and
Okay.
so I was like, "Oh, I want to volunteer with that population." I didn't know what exactly it was, but I was like,
Right.
"Okay, let me volunteer in the forensic
When I think of, the hospital you volunteered at, I think of I don't know why I think of American Horror Story.
unit."
Do you remember you watch American Horror
I
Story?
don't. I know.
Oh,
I don't.
there's this one season that the entire season is based in, like, a
An
mental yeah, an
asylum.
asylum, yeah.
Mm.
Um, it's actually really good,
Is it
so
okay?
it's a
I'm
trip.
gonna.
Yeah.
I've heard really good stories
Right,
or like really
right.
good stuff about American Horror
Yeah,
Story.
like, the first season is really good, probably my favorite, the second one's really good,
Mm.
probably the first 3
Okay,
are
pretty.
really good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
makes me for me, I mean, state hospitals don't look that extreme, but it just sometimes gives me, like, Shutter Island vibes,
Oh,
like
yeah. Oh, yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
it's definitely not like the movies, but it does give me those
Right.
vibes
So
sometimes, like
so
the
your experience there,
Mhm.
because that state hospital is completely blocked off, right?
Yeah.
There's, like, this enclosed, right?
Mhm. Locked facility,
Right.
yeah.
So talk about just getting because I always look every time I drive by there, I'm like, "Oh, like, I wonder what it's like in there."
Mhm.
Can you paint a picture of just kind of what it looks like or what the process is of getting in, getting out, and how
Um,
that all
yeah, it's not as locked down as a
Okay.
prison where you need, like, your badge and all this
Okay.
okay, I can't remember how Metro is, but I still go to Patton State Hospital, which is still a Department of California hospital. So,
Mhm.
with theirs, like you have to give your ID
Got
so
it.
that they know who's coming in and out, and like show them that you're a visitor, that you work there. And that's kind of like the procedure of getting in and out of the hospital and going into the
Got it.
different units and stuff. But because obviously they've had patients who AWOL.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and they'll put on civilian clothes who I don't know who they stole it from or who provided to them, but they've
Right.
had patients who AWOL from hospitals. So now they
Really?
have that procedure where like every single time you're in and out, you have to or going behind the gates, you have to provide your ID with to
Oh,
them.
wow.
Mhm.
Okay, okay. So when you get in there, is it everyone has, like, their own rooms and things are all blocked out, like, as far as
The
the state hospital
buildings.
yeah.
So there's different units,
Okay.
and different units house as I don't know how many patients are housed in each unit, but usually the rooms are anywhere like usually 4 people to a room. No one has
Mm.
individual
Oh,
beds.
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
The only time you have an individual bed is if you are being a danger to yourself or others.
Right,
Hmm.
right. Okay, that
And
makes
you're like
sense.
on watch or something.
Yeah, yeah. So, how long were you there? How many you were there for an internship?
Volunteer work. Yeah,
Volunteering.
volunteer work at Metropolitan State Hospital. I was there for like a year or so. And then that's when I met this girl who actually ended up being part of my cohort member. She told me about the program.
Oh,
She told
okay.
me about she was getting her master's in forensic
Oh, got
psychology
it.
at the Chicago school. And she's like, if you're really interested, you should apply too. And I was like, you know what? I think I am going to apply. This sounds like a really cool field. I'm really
Mhm.
interested in it. And I ended up applying. And I mean,
And now
yeah, now I'm
yeah.
here.
Now you
now,
got your
yeah,
you
now
pitched into
I'm,
your doctorate program.
yeah,
Now you're
yeah.
lecturing, now you're gonna take your state test, right, for licensure?
Yeah, taking my licensure exam, hopefully in April. Don't know exactly when, but starting to study up again for that. So,
Right. That's really interesting, Jackie. Right, kinda going into bio,
mhm.
right, and, like, kinda not really feeling it, changing it up. Still, you graduate, you're like, "I still don't really know."
What I'm gonna do.
Right, and
Yeah.
then you volunteer. Um, to kinda add to that, how do you can anyone volunteer? How do you volunteer at that particular state hospital? Like, how did you go about that?
Mhm.
Just in case people are interested or in the same field and wanna do the same
Yeah,
thing. Can you kinda highlight that?
for sure. Um, I'm not sure if they're doing the volunteer program now. I don't know
Right.
because this was back in 2013. So like
Pre-COVID.
yeah, way before COVID. Like 10 years, we're talking about 10 years ago, 10, 11
Right.
years ago. So I'm sure things have changed. But I actually did do a little bit of research because someone reached out to me regarding how I went about volunteering.
Mhm.
But what I did back then is I literally just Googled psychology volunteer
Oh,
opportunities. Like it
okay.
was as simple as that, like it near me. And I think I want to say Metro popped up. And so I clicked on the link. I looked at the website. I looked at, what I needed to do. And I just ended up emailing the volunteer coordinator.
Mhm.
I let her know I'm interested in volunteering and she set me up. You had to do a live scan, background, and
Mm.
all these different things. And
Right.
then that's kind of how I went. So, I mean, that's what I would suggest for individuals who are interested in going in the
Mhm.
field but don't really know what or where.
Right.
Um, just volunteering, trying to just Google like psych
Right.
volunteer.
Right. I think too, like, to even highlight that, like, just the process and the action you took, right?
Mhm.
Because again, going back to high school students that I work with who are like, "Can you talk to me about volunteer opportunities?" And it's like, for some reason, you know, and it's okay, right? People don't know or they don't know how to go about it, but it's really as simple as just Googling stuff.
Yeah, it's as simple as typing in
Yeah.
what you want, what you're looking for
Mhm.
sure.
Right, because a lot of people look for a specific, "Oh, like, how do you do it?" And it's a matter of, well, figure it out,
Mhm.
and it's easy as sometimes just searching something up. So,
Yeah.
don't be afraid to just get down and dirty and make mistakes and,
Mhm.
ask questions because
For sure.
sometimes people hold back on that
For
for
whatever
yeah,
reason,
for whatever
fears and
reason.
stuff, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, okay. So then you meet your friend who ends up going to that applying and tells you about the
Mhm.
school, the master's program.
Yeah.
You apply within, like, a year after
No,
volunteering.
I think she was saying yeah, a year after volunteering, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You apply, you get into the program.
Mhm.
2-year program? How
2 year
long?
yeah, 2-year program. I started it in 2014. Fall 2014. I finished in the summer of 2016. Um, yeah, and it was amazing. Again, I said I had amazing professors. They were super knowledgeable in the field,
Right,
had a lot of really good information, real life experiences to provide,
right.
and really sparked my interest in
Mhm,
more
mhm.
so. And
Yeah. Um, Going back to just the big picture, right? So you bachelor's, master's, you finished your doctorate program.
hmm
Can you talk about just, like, maybe, just how much of a challenge that was for you, or maybe like what led you to pursuing your doctorate to begin with after your master's? Because in
yeah.
the beginning, you weren't really, you were struggling with that bachelor's, you didn't know what to do.
hmm
You kind of found out some forensic psychology going into that direction. Then you end up deciding to go your doctorate program. Why even do that?
Yeah. Why? Yeah.
Yeah, why pursue the doctorate program after?
Um, I always saw myself wanting to do more than being a therapist alone. And I
Okay.
knew that by being a therapist, by wanting to do that, I had to pursue a doctoral degree. So We got introduced to psych assessments in our master's program, only just because they think it's, something good to know. Um, personality assessments, briefly touched on
Right.
those and things like that. And I really, really grew a liking to them. I was like,
Mm.
this is so interesting. This is, really cool. I really want to be able to, become an expert and interpret these personality
Right.
assessments. And here in the state of California, you can't do assessments like that, whether it's cognitive assessments, personality assessments, batteries, and things like that, without your
Mhm.
doctorate degree.
Got it.
Psych
Okay.
assessment, you have to have a doctoral
Got
degree.
it. So you're diving deeper into this
Yeah.
by going to the doctoral
Uh-huh.
program
And then I also wanted to be a professor. I mean, I know you can be a professor
with your
with your
master's.
master's, but I don't know what grade you're or what levels you're allowed to. I think maybe just undergrad as a
Right.
master, right?
Yeah, from
I
my
think
understanding, yes.
yeah, and so I wanted to teach graduate level too. So that's
Okay. So, okay, interesting. Um, so after your master's, were you already doing, like, therapy? Were you already doing that work as a
yeah.
therapist after your master's?
Yeah, so I mean, we start off with our practicum, right? When you're in this field as a counselor
Yeah,
or anything,
I
you have
remember
to do
that.
your
Yeah.
practicum stuff and kind of
Yeah,
accrue
all the
hours.
hours,
Yeah,
all that's the
exactly.
most exciting
I know.
part. No, not really.
So like accruing those hours. So it was like in 2015 where I started kind of diving into being a therapist and what
Mhm,
that meant
mhm.
for me in my career. And so since then, I graduated in 2016, and I took a year off and I worked as a mental health therapist for intensive services. And so, what that entailed was working mainly with individuals who were in the foster care system,
Okay.
and or on probation,
Mm,
um, mainly children and adolescents, and then working with their families, working on a collaborative team to really kind of either work towards reunification and how that's
mhm.
going to look like, if that's in the plan for the individual, or just kind
Right.
of, a lot of stabilization and
Mm,
helping the foster families care for the patient and the client. And
mm.
yeah.
Can you talk about a little bit, 'cause it's, just from what we're talking about, I'm getting, you're very compassionate, you wanna serve specific communities,
Yeah.
demographics, foster, mental health, right? Um, what kinda lured you into that community,
Hmm.
that work, right?
Yeah.
Um, Providing that therapy, providing that support, like, were you always I know, like, how did that even come up, and why continue to do that work? If you can
Yeah.
just talk about a little bit about that.
No, for sure. So, in 2015, when I started doing my practicum hours, I was working in community mental health clinic, and it was not necessarily like you apply for practicums, you interview at different places, and you essentially see
Right.
like where you land,
Mm.
And I
Yeah, because 'cause you're
remember,
exposed to a little bit of everything almost.
and I can't remember correctly, but I think in my master's level, I don't remember there being a lot of forensic practicum sites. So
Mhm.
that opportunity to do forensic work wasn't really there. So that's when I got into community mental health and working with
Mm.
children and families. And I actually really grew to love working with children, love working with families, seeing the impact that I'm doing, in that system.
Mm.
And so that transitioned me into finding the job as the wraparound therapist and working with intensive services, and continuing to foster that work
Right,
with
right. Okay. And so that was back then, right?
yeah.
And in the current work you're doing now,
Hmm.
how do you incorporate, like, I guess, that community
Hmm.
building or social impact? I mean, technically everything you do in your work is impactful,
Hmm.
but, as far as, like, community building or maybe even collaboration, can you talk about your current work and
Yeah.
how that's still seen or how that's still going on?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think you can see my work as a whole. Like if you were painting the picture,
Mhm,
my work entails keeping the community at large
mhm,
safe,
mm,
um, in addition to keeping the client who we're
Right.
dealing with safe, right? And so
Right.
that's kind of how we're, in a sense, bringing the community, and we collaborate with different
True.
professionals, whether it's, well, for sure the judges, because those are the people who read our reports and ultimately make the decision based
Right.
of what we recommend.
Mm.
So making sure that the judges respect our opinions, whether it's building the connections with them, because there's a lot of times where judges don't respect our opinion.
Mm. Really?
Yes, we've had many
They'll like tell
times.
you how does that what does that look like?
So, for example, we've had times where we are recommending for a patient to not be released into the community because they
Mm.
still pose a danger to society, to the community. And we're
Right.
like, no, we can't release this individual. And these are the factors as to why this person's risk for violence in the future is high. And this is a trajectory for this individual in
Wow.
particular. And obviously, we make our recommendations, but like I said, the judge is the ultimate say, and they
Mhm.
can say, you know what, we agree with you, or no, we don't agree. And we've had judges where we make the recommendation that the person is not safe and they dismiss our recommendation.
Damn.
They've released the individual to the community, and sadly, they have reoffended, and sometimes
Really?
even more violently.
Oh,
More
wow.
violently. And in those moments, we're like, we hate to say we told you so, but
Right.
we told you so.
Right.
And so it's really working towards building those relationships with those judges so that they respect our opinions and they
Mm.
take it for, because at the end of the day, we know what we're doing, right?
Right.
We are making these recommendations. We've been trained. We
Right, you're the
use tools.
professionals.
Yeah. And so we definitely, our supervisors have worked hard to maintain relationships with the judges so that
Mhm.
they, respect our opinions. It's a double-edged sword, my supervisors say, where there's this specific judge who loves our reports. He's like, we love you guys are so thorough. You guys provide so much good information. And it's like, we feel flattered, but even when we don't need to write a report, he's like,
Mhm.
just write it anyway because I love your report. So we're
Oh
like,
my
oh, all
gosh.
right, fine.
You have to do it when you once they
Yeah.
request it, huh? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So why is it that the okay, maybe you probably already kinda touched on this, but why are judges going in, like, questioning to begin with? Like, I don't know, I'm just assuming, excuse my ignorance, but, like, I'm assuming you guys are the professionals, they're the
Mhm.
judges, they want to consider your work and your research and everything you've done,
Mhm.
especially because you're literally, incorporating community safety, individual
Yeah.
safety, like
Mhm.
literally have all of that in mind. But for some reason, they're dismissing what you're reporting. Like, why?
Yeah.
Why? Where does that come from?
A lot of the times from what we've learned in the field and like our supervisors has caught on is just a lot of the times it's just personality stuff,
Okay. Yeah.
ego
Yeah.
stuff, right? That kind of gets in the way and
Right.
impacts their ability to, you know, provide quality work and kind of make decisions based off like
Hmm.
proper judgment versus their
Right.
own ego. And that's kind of what we've come to realize that.
Mm, that makes sense.
Mhm.
Yeah, a lot of ego in the way,
Oh, for sure.
which is that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's really crazy. And we're talking about your work as a forensic evaluator,
Yeah. Correct.
right? So just to kind of clear that up for people. Um, so how long you've been working specifically as a forensic evaluator now with the company
That
that
I'm
you
not,
work?
yeah.
Yeah, that you're in
A
now.
year. It was a year on the 30th of January. So I've barely been there a year. I'm
Okay.
fresh. Yeah. I'm still very, very new. Thank you, thank you,
Yeah.
thank
There
you.
you go.
Yeah. So I'm still very new to the position. Again, even though I came in with some slight knowledge just because volunteering at Metropolitan, so I was familiar with the terms of
Mm,
incompetent to stand trial, not guilty by
right.
reason of
Oh,
insanity. Like I was familiar with them and the penal codes. I mean, I don't want to bore you guys with them,
I
but
know. I
those
know about
things.
ed codes, and they're like,
Yeah,
yeah.
and so I was familiar. So that kind of gave me a little bit of an upper hand just of my familiarity with those and kind of what it entails to get a person to, fall into that specific penal code.
Mm,
But it's still a learning. There's so much to learn, so
I
many
bet.
things, so many, back end things and laws and codes and things. And so I'm still new to it and learning and
Right.
yeah.
Speaking of just kind of diving more into that, right? You talk about individuals who've been found incompetent to stand trial.
Yeah.
What does that mean for people who don't? No,
For
what's that?
sure. So, what we work with and deal with is so in the state of California, it is illegal, and it was again, I'm gonna throw in some stuff, but the case it started. This specific penal code started with Dusky and Hut, and
Hmm.
I think Dusky, some just forget about that. But it was a specific. I think it was the Dusky standard. Yes, the Dusky standard, it basically states that a person cannot be tried if they are not competent to stand trial. And what competency means is they are able to rationally assist in their defense. So,
Mm.
assist their counsel in their defense, and they understand the charges and the court proceedings and all of that.
Right.
Um, and so, if you are not, if you so prong one is that you understand the charges against you, you understand the court proceedings, you understand all of that things. And then prong two is you are able to rationally assist in your defense. If you are not competent in either one, you cannot be competent to stand trial. You have to
Even
meet
just one,
yeah, you have to
both.
meet criteria for both. You have to be able to rationally assist in in your client in your defense, and then you have to be able to understand the proceedings against you.
Oh,
And
wow.
so if you are unable to do either or both, then you would be found incompetent to stand trial. And at that moment, your charges are placed on hold. It doesn't mean your charges get dropped, but your charges
Right.
are placed on hold until you gain competency. So
Mm.
it's either does this person need psychiatric medication because they have paranoid delusions, they are hallucinating, you know, um, their mental illness is kind of getting in the way
Right, right.
of those things, or sometimes is there an intellectual disability that is
Mm.
preventing this individual, or is it dementia, is it what are the
Right,
factors that are is this a psychiatric
right,
issue, a medical issue,
right.
and then once
When it
you
comes to that, how what's the time frame, like, on until they gain competency, and where are they living during that time?
yeah, um if I'm correct, I can't remember, but I want to say it's 2 years. I might be wrong. Don't quote me on that. But if I remember correctly, I want to say it's 2 years. And I think if after 2 years, if the person is there's no restoration, you can consider the person non-restored, and then I
Mhm.
believe the charges get dropped.
Oh, really?
But yeah, but I mean,
Okay,
I
okay,
feel like that's a pretty high standard. You would have to probably be like severely intellectual, like
okay.
intellectual
It's, like,
disability
uncommon.
or like dementia or something that really limits their cognitive ability to
Got it.
gain.
Like, to the point
Yeah.
where it's like, there's no way that they're gonna cause, harm or violence against others because
Mhm.
of their.
I mean, not even that.
Oh,
It's just
really?
more so that their cognitive abilities limit their ability to gain
Oh,
competency.
really?
Yeah, because I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
it's sadly sometimes the charges get dropped. I mean, you're just like, oh, they're
Do
free to
you
go.
from your current time where you're at as a forensic evaluator, do you see that quite often as far as, like, charges being dropped because of that specific reason of not being able to stand trial?
I
Or
think we've made the recommendation that a person is probably not going to be restorable, and then it's up to the judge to kind of decide
Hmm.
how it's handled from
Ultimately
there.
ultimately, it's their
Yeah,
decision.
ultimately as a judge, yeah.
Right.
We just make the recommendations.
Right. Got it. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Not guilty by reason of insanity, the
So,
difference?
yeah, huge difference. So, you can be found incompetent to stand trial and then later go to your proceed on your criminal procedures and then be found not guilty by reason of insanity. So basically what that means is that y- most likely the defendant's lawyer is going to raise the doubt that the person was not sane at the time of the offense. So
Hmm.
they did not understand right from wrong at the time that they were committing the
Oh,
offense.
at the time.
At the time.
That's the key.
Yes, at the time. And so that again, it's so hard to
Ho I
prove.
was gonna say that.
Yes, it is
Like,
so hard to prove.
okay,
Mhm.
at the time, but now they're in court on trial,
Mhm. Mhm.
and, they're sane,
Mhm.
but you're not going off of their current.
Exactly.
So
Not their
how do you
current
go about, right,
presentation.
how do you present that? Or
Their
how, just the report and you present it to the judge, or how to
Yeah, I mean, a lot
help
of
me,
times we
yeah.
have the arrest reports where you can tell, okay, this client was, highly paranoid, delusional, um, listening to their command hallucinations or things like that. And then also too, does this person have a history of mental illness? Um,
Mm,
and so we're kind of really reviewing records and really going as far back as we can as possible with, these individuals whoever's evaluating the person and um, trying
okay.
to come up with that certification of like
Right,
not guilty by
right.
reason of insanity.
Interesting.
Hmm.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Lastly, before we move on, offenders with a mental disorder.
Yeah.
Different,
So
same thing.
again, different. So offenders, so with the NGIs making it clear, so they were found not guilty of their crime
Correct.
because they were insane at the time. So
Mhm.
they didn't get, technically charged with their
Right.
crime, but
Because of
their
that.
yeah, but their consequence is they're going to be sent to a state hospital to
Mm.
serve their sentence there.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Yes. And so, with offenders with a mental health disorder, they have been found guilty of their crime,
Mhm,
whatever it is, usually a felony. They were
mhm.
found guilty of their crime. So, they got sent to prison. And in prison, their mental health was deteriorating. There was some sort of mental health issues. And then that's where the board of paroles comes in and it's like, okay, this person is an offender who has a mental health disorder. And so they get
Mm.
labeled as that. And then at that point, they get removed from prison and they get sent to the state hospital because they need a higher level
Oh,
of
I see.
care.
Okay.
Hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. This is
Yeah.
good work that you're doing and you're a part of, huh?
Yeah.
With that said, would like to transition to some post of yours, right?
Yes.
But before we do that, I do want to highlight um, a promotion for a business called Mom's Cocina, right? So Mom's Cocina is a authentic Mexican food, not restaurant, but household name and business. For those of you who do not know, Mom's Cocina is actually operated by my mom. She is a very well-known, popular chef, so to speak, right? She makes delicious food, um, authentic Mexican food made with quality and delicious ingredients. She makes some of the dishes that she makes with birria, tamales. I mean, literally everything you can think of. Long story short, Mom's Cocina is originated, I mean, since I was a kid, but has recently been established, and Mom's Cocina is currently available for booking, for catering, taco caterings, events of all sizes, large or small, quinceañeras, weddings, luncheons. I mean, literally everything. So I want to give a shout out to Mom's Cocina and introduce you guys to a little bit of a promo, and hope you enjoy. Let me get.
Hey, Mom's Cocina, thank you so much for catering my daughter's quinceañera. My guests had a really good time. They really enjoyed the food. I just want to say that your staff and the overall service that I got from you is fantastic. And I will definitely be recommending you again to my friends and family. Everybody is really happy with the food. And thank you so much for joining me.
Hey, it cannot be more aptly named. Mom's Cocina brings that food that I remember from my abuelita and my mom. It was great customer service, great food. Everything went out without a hit. They were super fast. Our fault, we came in late, and they got to us. They got us everything we needed. Highly recommend these guys. Take care, guys. I highly recommend. Great service. Beans and rice, I'm so picky, but it was delicious. Hi, yeah, their service is amazing. The attention to detail. They were there, checking what we needed. They got plates for our family who we were waiting on. So they were great. 100% recommend.
Awesome.
Yeah. With that said, if you're interested in booking Mom's Cocina, you can find Mom's Cocina on social media, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, momscocinacatering.com. Also, the social handle on social media is Mom's Cocina Catering as well. So if you are interested in that, feel free to reach out. Um, Food is bomb, I know firsthand. But I did want to dive into social media. So there's a cup to your Instagram specifically. If we can get that. Does this work?
Hey, Mom's Cocina, thank you so
There we go. Drum roll. I wanted to pull up specifically your Instagram, if we can pull that up,
Alright.
and then wanted to kind of highlight some things. We talked a little bit about everything so far,
Yes.
but just keeping so that photo with I really
Mhm.
love this photo, by the way. I mentioned it last time, but that
Thank
one
you.
to the left, yeah, that's the one with the prison outfit, so to speak.
Yes.
Can you provide so really quick, just to kind of highlight what we're doing, just kind of highlighting social media post on Jackie's profile, without providing too much information. I mean, for me, without providing information, she didn't provide context to each one that I highlight. So, is this Halloween?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. This was definitely Halloween, my daughter's first Halloween. She was, let's see, August. No, she was 3 months,
Oh
and
wow, three
yeah,
months.
3 months. She was a little one, and I have always been a very, like, silly, funny person, and I was like, "You know what? Like, I'm gonna dress up as Doctor Evil and
Golden
Mini Me."
member,
Yeah, I was like,
Austin Powers
"'Cause
gold member.
she legit is my mini me, and what better than the prison outfit because they sang that song, It's a Heart Not Life, and
Right.
I was like, at
Hmm.
that moment, I was like, "That is just so fitting for us. That is
Hmm.
just what it is," and
I love that scene in that movie. It's
yeah.
a hard knock life, and they're like performing. It's
Yes.
hilarious.
So, yeah, definitely, I'm gonna do silly, crazy, fun outfits with her for as long as she lets me, because that's just
How old is your daughter right now?
she's 2 and a half. She'll be
She's
2 and a half on the 15th of this month.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah.
What did you guys
She's
do for last Halloween?
I
Did
didn't
you
get pictures, but,
Okay.
we were stepbrothers.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh, cool.
specifically the scene where they're out in the yard, and I think, which one is it, Dale, who's, like, digging up something or
Oh, yeah.
whatever, and, like, they're all full of dirt and, like,
Yeah.
yeah. I
Ah,
know, I wish I would've got a better picture, but she was not
that's
having it that
awesome.
day. Yeah, so, I mean,
Hilarious,
yeah.
hilarious. I
I
like
want
that.
I wanna do funny stuff with her.
Yeah.
So
We'll go to another post. I think to the top, there's another one with your daughter, that one in the middle.
mhm.
So I was gonna share what I kinda caught my attention, but I'd obviously
Go
rather
for
have
it.
you. Right away, it looks like you just graduated or you're
Yes.
taking, graduate photos and you wanna incorporate your daughter in the mix,
Mhm.
which I think is awesome. Would you mind Was I on point, or is that
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah, no, that's definitely what happened. I was taking my graduation pictures, and I obviously my daughter's a part of my life, so I
Right.
really wanted to incorporate her in that because at the end of the day, she is now my new source of motivation. So
Mm,
before, I had to find my own motivation and kind of seek those within myself. And so now with her, she became, the new driving force to everything that I do now. And I captioned it with, Marley. Again, we're getting emotional with never forget how wildly capable you are. And I captioned it that because um, at the time that I was completing my doctorate program, I was pregnant with her. It was, I would think I was yeah, I was on my internship year. I found out I was pregnant with my daughter, and I was finishing up no, I was finishing my last year of practicum. I was finishing up my trying to get my case conceptual or my comprehensive exams, trying to pass those. I was
mm,
trying to secure an internship. I was trying to finish my dessert. There was just so many things going on at that
mhm,
moment, all while dealing with personal matters too. I would mention being involved in a domestic violence situation. So I was and my best friend, also my childhood best friend, passing away. So all of
mm,
these different adversities going on, like things that probably should have, sent me
right.
down, a very, very dark spiral and just kind of like probably, could have put anyone out. But I just kept
Mhm,
thinking, like, all right, like I got, now I got another one, another little life that I have to worry about. And so
right.
I chose that specific one because it's like, don't forget how capable you are.
Mm,
Whatever life throws at you, like you got it, you can do it, and you'll get through it. It's going to be hard, but you are more capable than your problems.
right, right. Um, your daughter, you mentioned your new motivation,
Mhm.
right? You talk a little bit about just the adversity during that time and all the
Yeah.
different things that were going on. um, what and from what I know, raising your daughter on your own,
Yeah.
right? Very, very much of a challenge, but at the same time, you're doing amazing,
Mhm.
right? Um, can you talk about just kind of what motherhood means to you
Mhm.
right, she's 2.5 now, and just your experience going on these 2.5 years,
Oh, man.
what that means to you and maybe some of the challenges that you've experienced?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I'm gonna be honest, I think at least from my experience as a mother, a new mother, going into motherhood from the very beginning, being a single mother and all that, I think it's still a concept that I myself am trying to understand, if I'm being quite honest. Like, it's
Mhm.
still something that I'm still transitioning into and navigating and
Right.
realizing that, you know, I'm Jackie, but I'm still a mom. I'm a mom, but I'm still Jackie, and I'm still a
Mm.
professional, and I'm still a sister. I'm like, trying to navigate and how am I fitting this new role into my life, and
Mm.
really coming to acceptance of like, okay, yeah, like I mean, yes, I'm a mom, and obviously, like
Right.
so really, really, I really told myself when I did find out I was pregnant, or even before having kids, is there's a lot of pressure on moms. I think we all know that society puts that pressure on moms of, you're the primary caregiver, and naturally it's our role. We naturally just fall into it. Even at birth, if you decide to breastfeed, it's, then naturally the baby clings to the mom. So
Mm.
I really made it a point to, with all that in mind, to just kind of try to stay true to myself as well, and to not neglect that just because I'm a mom. I'm still me. I'm still
Mm.
Jackie. I'm still, going to go to the gym. I'm still going to, hang out with friends or enjoy my hobbies, and that I don't have to completely put aside the identity that I was before and dive into just the identity of being a mom. And so really navigating all of those emotions and like
Right.
the guilt that comes with it too, naturally, whether it's
Right.
guilt from yourself or the shame that you inflict on yourself, or just even too, like, what are other people going to think? Like,
Mm.
what are other people going to say? Because I think it's just easy to kind of really neglect yourself and just stick to the role of
Right.
motherhood or
Right.
parenthood or anything like
Think as
that.
far as
So,
like why are you doing these other things when you have a daughter and you should be
mhm.
doing only that? Or is that what you
Yeah,
mean by what are people gonna think?
essentially, yeah. So, I mean, if I'm s- like prime example, I love traveling. Traveling has always been a big part of me. It helps me foster my own personal development, immersing myself in cultures. And, obviously, when you become a parent, it's not all about you anymore. You have to do things with your, child in mind. And so, really
Right.
navigating all those different things. But I also knew too that travel is so important to me. So how can I navigate those things? So when I took my trip to Europe, there was like
Right.
a big, because I didn't take my daughter with me, and I was gone for 2 weeks.
Oh, wow,
Yeah, I
okay.
was gone for 2 weeks. So it was really navigating like, crap, like, what are people going to judge me? Like, oh my God, she's a mom. How could she leave her daughter for 2 weeks? And really
Mm.
learning to navigate those, am I just projecting, things onto myself? Maybe people don't even think that, but just kind of really navigating through all those,
Mm.
not just with that specific example, just with anything with
Right.
motherhood. Like,
Right, right.
if I post that I'm out drinking with my friends, or people, oh my gosh, she's drinking with her friends. Like,
Mm.
she should be at home with her mom. And maybe these are just things that I myself, or I don't know if other mothers can relate,
Right.
but it definitely comes up for me. So I think motherhood is really just trying to navigate all that while being the best that you can be,
Mm.
as a mom. And
That
yeah.
speaks a lot, just all we can call it pressure or
Hmm.
expectations that are put on mothers, right?
Yeah.
Um, and at the same time, it's um, like right away, I think about just all the respect I have for women and moms going through pregnancy, right? Just
Yeah.
talking about that, just that alone. Like, are you serious? Like,
Yeah.
you're carrying another human and they're growing inside of you,
Hmm.
and then you have to get them out of you
Yeah.
later. Like, really? Like, that alone is like, yo, you do whatever you want. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like, what do you want?
Yeah.
Like, can I help? You know,
Yeah.
like that should be the approach. You
Absolutely.
know, like you just went through this.
Mhm.
Like that, I can't even.
Mhm.
I'm taking a dump and I struggle. You know, and
Right, no, for
you
real.
over here got a child in you.
You're pushing out a watermelon.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
so, you know, shout out to you and all the
Thanks.
moms, right,
Yeah.
for really going through and you deserve to have that time to
Mhm.
yourself, right? And there should be no guilt, with
Yeah.
that, At the same time, obviously your child is number one and a priority and you're gonna do all that.
Facts. Facts,
Like
facts,
that should be
facts.
given,
Yes.
like there should be no question whether or not there should be no question about you having your own time,
Mhm. Yeah.
and to other mothers out there, right?
Mhm.
Because at the end of the day, you're gonna be coming right back,
Mhm.
you know. And granted, there's cases where people probably shouldn't have kids, but
Absolutely.
and that comes up and that's get dealt with. But at the end of the day, we're just generalizing, just going through motherhood and
Yeah.
having that experience, right? So
Yeah.
I hear you on feeling that guilt, but at the end of the day, I want to remind you, like,
Yeah.
you need to take time for you.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of what it helps remind me too. I the way I talk myself down from shaming myself of, like, am I being a good enough mom or all those things, but I also or when I want to take the time apart from being away from my daughter and taking a little getaway weekend or whatever. I always say, like, okay, well, this is going to make me happy, and in turn, if I'm happy, I can be a better mom, because if I'm stressed out and bugging out,
True.
I can't if I can't show up
Right.
for myself, how am I going to show up for my daughter?
Right, right. How do you balance everything?
I have an enormous support system. When they say it takes a village to raise a kid,
That's what I would think,
that's
yeah.
not a lie. It really does. Especially as a single mom, I'm pretty sure even having a partner, you still need your village, right? But more so
Yeah.
as a single mom, um, huge shout out to my dad and my mom and just, my mainly and my neighbor. She's a huge help too. She babysits my daughter when I'm at work, my dad
Mhm.
as well, my mom. If I ever need some time to myself, whether I want to go get my nails done or want to go to the gym or whatever it
Mhm.
is, my mom or dad are always just so willing to be like, yeah, just drop her off. Or even I tell my dad, you know
Nice.
what, dad, I need a good night's sleep tonight because
Mm.
homegirl doesn't let me sleep sometimes. Can
Right.
can she stay the night at your house? And my dad's like, yeah, like, go for it.
Nice.
And so that's a huge, I think if it wasn't for my parents and the huge support that I have, ugh, I would lose it. I would
Mm.
lose it.
Can you imagine doing it without them? Because I'm just thinking of, like, moms who don't have that,
Yeah.
right? Like
It's hard. And this is to say, like, I have it easier, but it's not to say that it's not hard, because at the
right,
end
of
of the day,
course.
it still comes back to me. It still falls on me. I'm still the sole caregiver of my daughter. So
Mm.
it's hard. It's tough. It's a mental battle. Ultimately, I think, a mental battle within yourself of like
Mm.
how, and I always try to treat myself with grace and compassion,
Right,
you
right.
know.
'Cause at the end of the day too, I mean, you go to work, right? Or
Mhm.
you go to the gym, you come back right to your daughter, right? It's not it's a switch where you can turn it off, right? Yeah, your parents help you out, you can drop them off, and that's, that happens, but at the end of the day, when you do come home and it's like right on, it's back on,
Yeah. Yeah, my rest time is like, okay, I'm off work and it's my hour commute. Like, how am I gonna decompress from
Right,
work
right,
to get myself into like mom mode,
right,
and kind of carry on now
right.
this part of my role.
What are some things that you enjoy doing, to kind of relieve, just kind of
Mhm.
disconnect
Yeah.
or get away, like when you need that time for yourself?
Mhm.
Is it more of like, I just want to go out and socialize, or is it more of like, I want to practice like self-care
Yeah.
and specific things like working out you mentioned, or
Yeah.
what are some things that you go to
Yeah.
for that?
All of the above, but it just depends on what, like, it really takes a lot of checking in with yourself. I think in any capacity, not just being a mom, but just, as a professional, as a, whatever role you're playing in your life, is checking in with yourself.
Hmm.
What part of me is missing right now? What part of me is like, what battery needs to be recharged? Sometimes it is my social battery. Sometimes it's
Right.
like, all right, all I do is work and come home and talk to a toddler. Like I need to talk to other adults and, about whatever random situation. So
Right.
sometimes it is socializing, whether it is, going out to dinner with a friend. My socializing looks a lot different nowadays than it was at my UCSB days. So,
Oh, big difference.
so,
Man, you mean you don't want to go to those parties no more?
so whether it's that, socializing, going to dinner or, maybe going to a show, grabbing a dinner and a drink, something like that. Or sometimes like, you know what, I need some self-care. I'm going to go to meditate on the beach. I'm going to go on a walk, a little nature hike or the gym or something. So it really just all depends on what I feel I need in the
Mm,
moment.
yeah. Do you feel like obviously your background, your education, your
Mhm.
profession, experience, all of the above, do you feel like that gives you like you're more aware and like, all right, I know how to go about navigating
Mhm.
this, like you're better equipped to, you know how to cope, you know how to practice self-care, you
Mhm.
know what you're feeling, you know how to name and identify what you're feeling and go through this whole process. Like,
Mhm.
do you feel like um that is extremely helpful in this
Right.
situation?
Yeah. I think gaining the knowledge through my education has helped me become a little bit more self-aware. But what really helped me even more so was actually going to therapy myself.
Mm,
I think that is key for me. I'm still in therapy. Because at the end of the day, like it really helps to have someone on the other end.
right.
You can have all the self-awareness,
Mm,
but really having someone there to kind of help guide you and pointing those
right.
things out, and taking that extra step and the extra initiative to,
Right.
that's been the biggest help for me
Right.
too.
Because you still
And
don't see everything.
yeah, you don't. I think there's things that you miss, or
Mhm.
and there's things that your therapist is able to kind of pull out and kind of get out of you.
Mm, okay. Good. I'm glad you brought the mental
Hmm.
health piece up because, the stigma tied to mental health,
Yeah.
right, has been there forever practically and still there, probably will remain there for
For some
forever as
time.
well.
Yeah.
Is that important to you to like talk about mental health or, to remove that stigma or just bring attention to it and awareness to it? Like,
Oh,
is that important?
yeah, for sure.
Okay.
I mean, being in the field, like
Yeah, for
absolutely,
sure.
right? And I'm always just very, very upfront and transparent with my patients. I let them know, like, I've been in therapy. I know what it's like to be on the other side. I really normalize the process of therapy, even with friends and people in my
Mm,
life. Like, I'm always like, go to therapy, go to therapy. It
right.
helps. Even if you don't feel like you have anything, you don't need to
I wasn't
be in a
mhm.
crisis or wait till you're in a crisis to
Right.
be in therapy.
Right.
Like naturally people just wait till they're in a crisis
Right.
and that pushes them, but it's like, why get there? Just
Right.
go now. It's
Yeah, it's like
great.
that physical health and mental health, right? Like, you don't gotta be out of shape to go to the gym.
Yeah.
You could be in great shape, and that's
Mhm.
probably why you're in great shape. Same thing with the
Exactly.
mental,
Yeah.
right? You gotta take care of that. Just because you don't see it, you know what
Mhm.
I mean? Doesn't mean you don't need to take care of it, you know?
Exactly. And I'm a really firm believer that, our childhood and all the ways that we were brought up, our attachment styles, our
Mm.
patterns in familial relationships and all those things, like I think they get embedded into our unconscious,
Mm.
in they'll come out in different areas, and if you're not doing the work, you're gonna bleed onto people who don't deserve that,
Right.
who so it's I really like go to therapy. It
Right.
helps, and in your therapist, when you find a good
Yeah, I
therapist,
was gonna say
again, the
yeah,
right
yeah.
therapist.
'Cause there's a such thing as going to therapy, not connecting with that therapist, and that's
Yeah.
okay, it happens, and just find someone else,
Yeah, that's how I am.
right?
I always give the spiel to my clients in the beginning when I was doing therapy. I always say, "Hey, I understand I may not be the right fit for you, and that's okay. You can fire me at any moment that you like. You don't have to stick with
Exactly.
me, and that's perfectly fine. I will help you find the right therapist for you." Because again,
Mm,
if there's no connection, if you're not connecting to your client and your client doesn't feel connected to you, the work is going to be non-existent. Like there's not
right,
going to be any progress.
right.
Yeah.
I hear you on that, amen. Let's finish off with your Instagram really quick
Oh yeah.
so we can move on. Forgot we were on there, and we gotta bring that back.
Yeah, we
If we could, there we go back to the Scroll down, down. There was one. Let's see. Down. Actually, go back up to the left. I think that's your dad,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Click on that one. The second
Oh, yeah,
photo.
yeah. The Father's
Bring
Day
Pablo
one. Yeah.
Escobar out. There we go.
Yeah.
There's Pablo Escobar. I didn't know your dad was Pablo Escobar. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, there's some things I like to keep private. Just kidding.
So I see your dad.
That's my dad.
What's
Yes.
going on? And you can either photo, it doesn't matter, but
Yeah. I
yeah.
mean, that was obviously a Father's Day post. Found that picture of him and I. We were sitting at the bench in the backyard of our family friend's house.
Okay.
Yeah, they're still family friends. They're still, around, and I don't remember taking that picture. Obviously, I mean, I was so little,
Right.
but yeah, I that's a picture that
That outfit he has on though,
I
that's
know,
what I
super. I
need.
know, right? Shoot, the mustache,
Everything, the
just
stash, the
freaking
shirt, the
swaggy.
watch, the shoe, everything. He got
Yeah,
swag.
swag. I
I like
know.
that.
Yeah, and so I mean, I don't know if I have many pictures of my dad or of me and my dad, to be honest, but I think that one was a really, really cool one.
Yeah.
I was happy in that picture, so I was smiling at something. So,
The relationship you have with your parents,
uh-huh.
strong, outstanding. I mean, can you talk about
Yeah, definitely. I think growing up, it was different. Which it's astonishing to me because the relationship with my dad growing up was just really, really bad. It was,
mm,
a very when I mentioned wanting to leave my house for college, it's because, I grew up in a very abusive household. My dad was a very abusive person towards my mom, towards my brothers, towards myself, just verbally, physically and stuff. So, yeah, I didn't have a great relationship with him growing up.
got
It
it?
all changed when I went to college, and I think he kind of realized, like, oh, okay, my daughter is gonna make something of her life or whatever.
She's
I
gonna
don't
be a
know.
doctor.
Yeah, I don't know what switched in his
She's going to
brain.
med school.
Maybe it was the fact that I was like becoming an adult now and kind of realizing,
She's
like,
majoring in bio.
yeah. So, but growing up, I do remember being closer to my mom, and the roles kind of switch. I'm still very close to my mom. I live with her, so I talk to her and have a relationship with her and stuff. But I do see myself clashing a little bit more with my mom
Hmm.
nowadays versus with my dad. I'm able to kind of have a more deeper connection and
Right.
stuff now.
Right.
And I think because we understand and see each other like on an adult level now, like I'm
Mm,
his adult daughter,
mm.
and I think he respects me as a person, he respects me as a mother, and I think that's kind of where the things differ.
Are your parents separated?
Yeah, they
Okay.
divorced when I left for college. Yeah, yeah, they
Okay.
divorced my freshman year of college.
Got
Hmm.
it. Okay. Go back. Let's go back to her and keep going all the way down. It's one of the traveling
Oh
photos.
yeah.
And I bring this up because I just do it for me. I like the Coliseum.
Yeah.
Yeah, where's that one at?
It's
There's one of the
down,
Coliseum.
yeah.
So I think you mentioned last time you were there because you were studying abroad.
I was studying
Yeah, that one
abroad.
right there.
Yeah.
So wow, Coliseum right there.
Mhm. Yeah, I was
Can you
studying
talk about
abroad.
that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I was studying abroad in Barcelona, and Rome was one of the places that I visited on one of the weekends. And it was always one of the places that I wanted to go to again, obviously to see the Colosseum, obviously to see the Vatican, and
Right.
experience the Sistine Chapel and all that. So it was very, very like I think I cried like when I was in Rome because it was just
Mm,
just being in awe of like the beauty of just the historical monuments,
right.
and the
Yeah.
meaning behind
That's
them,
how I
like the
feel.
history, like oh
Hmm.
my gosh, like there were gladiators here,
Right.
people fought
Like
here, like
really?
they
Yeah.
died here, like and just taking it
That's
all
exactly how I
in.
am.
Yeah, taking it all in and just really being grateful for the experience that like wow, like I get to be in the present, I get to like see this. Like, this is so cool. This is so amazing. I'm so grateful. Like,
Mhm.
thank you, God, for letting me be here and like witness such a beautiful thing.
Right, exactly, I agree. That's on my bucket list, visiting Rome. Um,
10 out of 10 recommend. I think you must, it's a
yeah,
must.
I think so too, and I haven't been there, but I think it's
Yeah,
really nice.
I recommend. I honestly, I recommend anybody and everybody if you have the means to, even if you don't try to make the means to travel. I mean,
Right,
I rather be broke and traveling because you're rich in other areas. You're rich in culture. You're rich in,
right.
you know, seeing other people's way of living, and I think that
Mm.
that is so much more valuable than like money itself for
Right,
me.
right. There's a as we're talking about this, and we'll reel it back off Instagram for now. Um, there's a book. I'm trying to remember the term, but do you know who Tim Ferriss is by any
I
chance?
don't.
Okay, he's an author. Can we Google search this book? But you were talking about traveling, the means of traveling, right?
Yeah.
There's this book that I read. It was actually recommended by Tim Ferriss, and Tim Ferriss is like basically he identifies as like this he's like an entrepreneur, does all these awesome
Mhm.
things, but he's one to like experiment with a lot of things and like
Okay.
write about it, talk about it. But he has this book, and if we can Google like Tim Ferriss backpacking book, there's a term specifically that identifies a person who is a backpacker who
Mhm.
travels. But also in this book, and the reason why I don't bring up the book because I want to just present on it. Um, in this book, he talks about how you could live a life of traveling,
Mm.
and you don't necessarily need this extravagant career, income,
Yeah.
all this and that. So inside of this book, and the book is named the name of the book, it's like a one term thing. It's by Tim Ferriss. There's a book. Maybe like Google like book. Eh, maybe it didn't come up. I don't know, but um, it's let me see. I know I have a lot of his books, but for some reason I can't think of it. But anyways, the book goes. It's really heavy and goes into all of these resources and information on people who want to travel the world. So it goes really in like, oh, you have like seasonal jobs. You can teach a
Mm.
you can find a job abroad and
Yeah.
make income there. And and he provides all of these resources in this book when it comes to like being able to live this lifestyle.
Mhm.
It's really really interesting, and I want to bring it up, but maybe we could, you know, maybe you could find it later or something. I don't know, but it's I don't remember, but really good book. I really want to bring it up because I think it's helpful for those you're talking about traveling and
Yeah.
the means to travel. I think this book would be like a key way of learning how to do that,
I'm
even
sure,
if
yeah.
like, you don't have this income. Because right away people think I can't travel because I
It's
don't have right, it's
yeah, it's
expensive.
expensive, and it can be.
Right.
It can be if
Right.
you're looking at extravagant hotels and all these different things, and yeah, that would be nice, but for me, I'm looking for the experience, like,
Right.
I don't know, put
Hmm.
me in a hostel, like, whatever,
Right. A
like,
hostel.
I
Yeah.
I mean, nothing super janky now, but
Yeah. Have you seen the movie Hostel?
yes. I know, I thought of
Crazy.
that, yeah, when I was studying abroad, I was when I did travel, I
That's
was
the
in
book.
that's the book?
That's the
Okay,
book.
cool.
Vagabonding. Vagabonding.
Okay, tight, that's
So
super
that
cool.
that that's a term that is basically describes that person,
Mhm.
who an
Oh,
uncommon guide
vagabundo.
to yeah,
A
yeah,
vagabundo, yeah.
an uncommon guide to the art of long term world travel. The
Yeah.
book Vagabonding traveled with me around the globe. Yeah. So yeah, so this is the book that dives into like there's resources in there. It
Mhm.
kind of just highlights like
Oh, that's super
how you
cool.
could adopt this lifestyle and just live
Of
it and
traveling.
live a fulfilling life of traveling. Yeah.
Awesome. I'm gonna definitely
Um
have to pick that book up
yeah, it's a
because
good book. There's a lot
alright,
of resources
cool.
in there too. But anyways, thank you for bringing that up. Definitely a book recommend to add to the collection.
Jeff.
Earlier you were talking a little about your family, your daughter, how much she
Mhm.
means to you, right? Just she's like your new motivation,
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
You were talking about like when you were pregnant with her, like during that time,
Mhm.
going through what you went through. And I think even the first time I had you on the podcast, you were pregnant,
I was 5
right?
months I was 6 months I was hiding it.
You
You didn't
were.
know.
I was like, I didn't know, and I didn't wanna say anything because I didn't wanna assume. I didn't
Yeah.
wanna be that person, but,
You're like, "No, I gained weight, Miguel.
I
Stop,
was like,
imagine."
Jackie was actually small, like, I'm not gonna say nothing." Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, you were pregnant at the time, 5 months you said?
I think I
Or
was like 5 or wait, I don't remember. I left the relationship with my daughter's father in April. When did I see you? I think maybe I saw you like maybe in June or so, right? It
Yeah.
wasn't, yeah, so
Yeah.
April I was 5 months. So I was maybe like about 7 months pregnant or so, probably. Yeah, I
Okay.
was pretty far along
You were
then,
yeah, you
maybe.
were far along. Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
or maybe May, I'm not sure, but
Talking about
mhm.
the father of your daughter,
Mhm.
and how that's no longer a thing,
No, definitely not.
um, and knowing the relationship that you had with him,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
I want to go into that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, would you mind just sharing a little bit about just your experience and
Mhm.
why he is no longer
In the
in
picture?
the picture?
Yeah, so basically, semi long story semi short. So I was involved in a domestic violence situation, and essentially I left for the safety of myself and ultimately like my daughters. Things did get physical at some point, and so that was kind of for me the breaking point, right? For
Hmm.
because um, at that point I was like, okay, one, you're not going to hit me. Two, you're not going to hit me while I'm pregnant. That's just definitely no.
Right.
But kind of going into just the dynamic of an abusive relationship, right? Because it doesn't start off abusive. Because imagine like someone just
Yeah.
comes in and just starts,
You wouldn't even. Yeah, you would have
you would,
dipped.
yeah, you
Yeah.
would dip right away, right?
Right. Right.
So it's the beginning phases of like the love bombing and like that term where this person is just overly showering you with love, overly showering you with all these different
Mm.
things and overly promising things. And just kind of like you're feeling that rush of like, oh my gosh, like, this person maybe really cares. Or for someone who like maybe has grown up in, abusive situations or things like that, or have gone through trauma, maybe will not be so keen on picking up that this isn't super normal. And I think I touched on it a little bit in the last podcast where
Mhm.
I dated this person previously.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so like years ago. And so I think in that situation, and it's not to excuse myself because I still take accountability for like putting myself in that situation, and maybe that's something I still need to work on with my therapist. But at the same time, it felt okay because I was like, "Well, I know this guy, so it's not that weird that he's feeling this way for me or whatever,
Right,
blah blah blah." So it
right,
was a little bit more easy for me to kind of like dismiss some
right.
things or kind of not see them as like red
Mhm.
flaggy or for a lack of a better word or
Right.
whatever and stuff. So then gradually, little by little, there was like the emotional abuse, and then like the verbal abuse, like the name calling, the putting
Mm.
down, or like different you know things like that, the accusations of like, oh, you're insecure, or you're being possessive, or you're being this, when it was just a matter of like mutual respect, like things
Mm.
like that, where it kind of got, gradually, and then there was the bouts of like mood instability where there would be moments of, he's moody and I don't know why he's being moody. I didn't do anything, but making the like intimidating, where he's
Right.
slamming doors and, slamming drawers and throwing things. And I'm like, what the fuck's going on?
And
Like,
this is all
why?
random.
Yeah, sometimes random, sometimes, like we have a, what should be a healthy argument or should be a healthy
Right. A
discussion turn,
disagreement
yeah,
disagreement.
disagreement turns, sour. There was like a lot of people don't know that this is a form of abuse too, and intimidation. Like he would be recklessly driving. Like I'd be in the car and he'd be driving 110 miles an hour, weaving in and out of traffic, and I'm like, you're gonna kill us, like slow down, things like
Wow.
that. Yeah, it was wild, but like, I think for me, like it was little by little by little. And like I said, for me, the breaking point was like the moment that he, charged at me and put hands on me. And I was like, yeah, no, this is not it. And I'm
Mm.
not, and at that moment too, I thought about like, okay, I know how I grew up. And for me, when we going back to like what motherhood means to me, not just motherhood, but I think parenthood, at least for me, is when you choose to bring a new life into this world, you want to do better for them, right? You
Mhm.
want to create a better environment and a
Right.
better upbringing than what you were provided with.
Right. Right.
Knowing what you know, how can you change and how can you make better decisions to
Mhm.
provide a better upbringing for your kids? So in that situation, I thought, okay, if I am to stay here, I'm going to put my daughter through the same bullshit I went through.
Mm.
Like, do I want that for my kid? Do I want that for myself? Do I want those things? And so that kind of was the cat. Oh, aside from it, cops were called. There was a case going on and all these different things. But aside from that, it was real. That was like the main changing factor. It's like, I want to do better for my kid. That
Mm.
was another source of motivation to like,
That was like a that question, you had the answer right away, and it was like, all right,
yeah,
you know the answer. We gotta
yeah,
we gotta leave this for that.
yeah, for sure.
How you mentioned you knew him beforehand,
Hmm.
so once you got with him, you guys were together. How
Hmm.
much time afterward did you start kind of seeing all these things? Like how much into that relationship,
Yeah.
and then how long did you kind of go with it until you did finally leave?
Yeah, so we started dating sometime in like July-ish or so, and then I didn't see his behavior start changing till maybe like late October or so. And then the minute that I was pregnant, it was a huge 180, and his like that was like his, fully let go of like,
Wow.
the mad behavior change and stuff. And so I didn't.
When you were
Yeah,
pregnant.
yeah. So October, I found out I was pregnant like early December. So that was like a huge changing point in our relationship where I felt like his dynamic changed, the way he behaved towards me, how he treated me, and just kind of like his own carelessness towards the relationship and stuff. And then it wasn't until April. So not soon after, it wasn't too long of a time that I stayed.
Mhm.
Um, but again, I know that other women or even men in domestic violence situations, it takes them a
True.
lot longer to leave. I think the average is it takes a person 8 to 10 times to, break up, get back together, break up, get back together till they finally decide to leave the abusive relationship.
I've heard too, like some of the reasons why people don't leave and um, is because they fear for their life,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And so they choose to remain.
Yeah, it's a scary time leaving a domestic violence situation. For those who are not aware, it's the point of where the person decides to finally leave the relationship is the most dangerous point in the
Mm.
relationship. um, and you have to really create a safety plan, an exit plan. How are you going to exit this relationship safely, um, where you're not harmed, because that is the most dangerous
How
part,
did you
is
go about
leaving.
that?
I mean, for me, there was no choice because I called the cops.
Okay.
Yeah, cops were the thing for me. I ended up calling the cops. He was arrested, and the moment that he was arrested and I knew he was going to be in jail, at least for a few days or whatever, I packed my stuff and I left. So
Mm.
that helped. That really helped me. But again, I know there's horror stories where, women and men, get restraining orders or things like that. And sometimes like that doesn't help. Not to say don't do it, because you always want to
Right.
have a paper trail. You always want to have a paper trail,
Mm.
of things. Don't just because but again, at the end of the day, a paper is a paper, and sometimes people don't respect
Right.
that.
Right.
But I don't want to discourage anyone of not doing that.
Mm. During this time, who did you lean on for support?
I definitely leaned on my friend Suzette for support. She
Mm,
was my main source of, support at that instant. And she was the one person that I felt I can trust, who wouldn't judge me, who I can talk to. And even if I like, because I mean, there was times where I would talk, even before things got physical, I would talk to her about like some of the, other forms of abuse that were going on.
right.
Um, because again, when you talk to family and when you talk to friends, there's also that kind of like "Oh, why are you still together? Why are you
Yeah,
with
just
them? Why,
right,
why don't you just leave?"
right.
And it's easier said
It's
than
not that
done,
easy.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
it's easier said than done. And so she was just a person who was really, not judging me for if I chose to stay, or if I,
Mm,
whatever decision I made. She was just like, all right, girl, whatever you want to do, whatever you got, I'm supporting you, like, and I'm here for you. And so she created that safe space for me. So she was definitely the
mm.
person that I went to a lot.
Who any um as far as like his side of the family, was there anyone who was aware of who he was, what he was doing? Anybody ever reach out or anything kind of like that
um,
come up?
no, sadly, no. At the end of the day, I think um at that point in time, his family was more so kind of like he really loves you, like, blah, blah, blah. So it's just kind
Yeah.
of like
Right. Zero type of
yeah, yeah,
awareness from.
yes. So they were definitely not people that I felt were in my corner for the betterment of not even me, but the betterment of their like grandchild.
Hmm.
Yeah,
You know what?
sadly.
Yeah, it is very sad. I'm sorry you had to experience that,
Yeah.
Jackie. That's definitely an extremely difficult time
Oh, for
for
sure.
you, for anyone who having to
Any
go through those
yeah.
things. Uh, for those, I mean, maybe currently going through it. I
Mhm.
mean, even for just for future, we don't know what's to come, but any kind of like, if you were to go about, would you go about it differently? If you were to had to do something like, if you were to go back in time, would you go about it a little bit differently than what happened? And the reason why I bring that up is because I'm thinking about others who are currently going through it. Maybe you
Mhm.
can shed some light on, hey, this is what might be the best way to go about it, or
Yeah.
maybe resources, or
Yeah.
anything that you think would be helpful.
I would definitely say reach out to trusted friends and family, those who you do trust. A lot of times, thankfully for myself, I didn't get isolated, but a lot of times, a lot of victims who are in relationships that are um, that involve domestic violence, there's a form of isolation where the perpetrator tends to isolate the victim from they cut off their support, right? So that the
Mm,
person becomes dependent on the perpetrator, and
right,
that's where it becomes harder to leave and stuff,
right,
because
right.
the perpetrator makes the victim feel that they have no one else but them, and then they create the situation where they don't have anyone else but them. But in
Mm,
those situations, what I honestly did for myself, because it took me a while to really for it to click that I was involved in a domestic violence situation.
mm,
For a while it was very like, what am I, and which is obviously odd because you have a professional, right? Who has been I've been a therapist for
right,
individuals who have been found in domestic violence situations and
right.
things like that. And so this goes back to like the shame that I brought upon myself. It's like you should have known. You should have known
Mm,
better. Like, and it was obviously brought on by myself, but other people as well. Well, like, you're in this profession, you should have known, blah blah. So
right.
what I did for myself, and again, I started Googling. Again, it goes
Going back
back
to
to a
Google.
simple search.
Right,
Like, I started Googling like domestic violence websites, and then I went on the little chats. Hey, this is going on in my situation. Like, is this domestic violence? Like, am I in this real type of relationship? Like, and there'd be like, do you need help? And I'm like, what do you, I'm just asking a question. So like,
right.
and so they're like, do you feel safe? Are you safe? And I was like, oh crap. Like, wow, that's when it really started
That's when
hitting
you,
me.
yeah,
Like, oh crap, I'm being asked if I'm feeling safe. I'm being asked of, all these questions. Like, these are the questions I would ask my patients, like,
right.
things like that. And so that was my thing. I really, again, Googled the resources near me. Obviously, again, contact your local, law enforcement if you're
Mhm.
really in imminent danger and things like that, and really try to reconnect with your sources of support if you don't have those, because
Hmm.
your perpetrator kind of cut you off.
Right,
But
right,
definitely don't be scared to reach out for help.
right. There's def so it sounds like there's various things that one can do during this time
Hmm.
to really um, help the situation, right? Because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it's not safe,
Hmm.
right? And the sooner you can exit that, the better.
Yeah.
Um, earlier you were talking about your parents' experience,
Yeah.
and then now you going through
Hmm.
this experience. You ever thought about that, reflected on that?
Yeah, definitely. That's something that, I definitely talk to my therapist a lot, how we kind of, going back to something I said earlier, is, our attachment to our caregivers are very
Mm,
telling of our future, the patterns we recreate if we don't heal those parts of ourselves, right?
right.
And so she really helped me understand that logically I knew better,
Mm,
yes, but subconsciously on a deeper level, that was familiar to me.
right, right.
And so it really really helped me realize that, when we go through trauma, when we go through these things, we are functioning off, like our brain is rewired and we're functioning off of that pattern that's been created, that that pathway.
Mhm.
And so it really helped me realize, and help me take that shame off of myself, still hold myself accountable, right? Because at the end of the day, it was
Right,
my choice.
right,
I
right,
did choose that.
right.
Um, and I know better now. So I will not choose that later on. But at the same time, giving myself that grace so that I can heal and I
Mm,
can move forward. And so understanding that, like, okay, all I knew was my parents fighting and growing up and all that. And, so my patterns and like my behaviors ultimately kind of led me to a
right,
place of familiarity
right,
where I
exactly.
was like, okay, I know what to do here. Like I've
Right.
seen it, done it, been there. Like I can handle
Mhm,
this.
mhm. And it's okay to give yourself that grace too, right? Like, I think that's
Yeah.
key, right? 'Cause at
Yeah.
the end of the day, we're all human.
Hmm.
We all we're all human. We all go through different things, but at the end of the whether we are familiar with it or not, that grace is
Oh, absolutely.
super, super
Yeah, and
important.
and that's what I've been learning too. Another lesson is like give yourself grace. If you should all over yourself, then
Mhm.
that's don't be shitting all over yourself.
Right,
You
exactly.
you do that and then you're shaming yourself. And then how
Mhm.
are you going to heal from the things that
Right,
hurt you?
right.
Because you're inflicting even more harm by
Mm.
telling yourself you should have known better,
Right,
or you
exactly.
should have, you're
Right,
so dumb, like, or whatever. And don't get me wrong, I did that. I
right.
did all that, but I wasn't healing.
Mm.
I wasn't healing from it. So now I'm like, okay, yeah, it happened, and it was familiar to me, but now I know better, and I will not repeat those things.
How do you maintain that awareness, like, in relationships now, future? How
Yeah, I
do you
mean,
navigate relationships differently because of it?
I try to. I definitely am more aware of those things and kind of really I was going to say something earlier and I kind of like, but yeah, again, just kind of like understanding that with that specific situation it felt familiar, and then sometimes even going to, because I've found myself in what could have been healthy relationships, um
Mm.
but because of my own, when you're in a healthy or if you find a healthy attachment, if you have all this trauma that you haven't healed from, something that is seemingly healthy, you're going to self-sabotage it,
Right.
because you're just going to be like, well, what is this? How do I handle this person? You
Mm.
actually want to communicate with me? Like, why are you
Right.
treating me so well? Like,
Right.
what is going on
Wow.
here?
Yeah.
And so you start to question, and if you're
Mhm.
coming from a place that you maybe feel undeserving of love or unworthy or whatever it may be, you're gonna handle those healthier dynamics. You'll do what you can to push it away, or to
Hmm.
to test the person,
Right,
things like
right.
that. And so that's kind of what I've been learning to kind of navigate that. Just because something may feel familiar or whatever, it's maybe not a good thing.
Hmm.
And I need to check myself, like, why am I feeling this way? And maybe just because something is causing me fear or anxiety, it
Mm.
doesn't always necessarily mean that it's a bad thing either. So just,
True.
I don't know if that made
Yeah,
sense
no,
or
that makes
not, but
sense. Yeah.
yeah, so definitely a learning curve. Now, obviously, with my daughter, now I have to approach dating in a whole different
Right,
mindset,
right,
because now
right,
it's just not me that has potential to get hurt.
right.
Now it's my daughter who has a potential to get hurt as well.
Mm.
So,
Hmm.
yeah, I've just been learning so much too. And also, one thing that also I've learned
Mhm.
is you know, and I got this. I don't know if you know Steven Speaks. He's a like relationship expert
Sounds
type of
familiar.
thing. I follow him on Instagram. He's like pretty good,
Mhm.
whatever. And like something I learned from him is that like you don't always need to run the moment you see a red flag. And
Mm.
what I mean by that is like, I think red flags are subjective to everybody, right?
Right.
What is a red flag
That's
to you
true.
may not be a red flag to me. What is a
Right,
and vice versa and things like
right,
that, right? Because we
right.
all have different values. We all view things differently in relationships. And what I really learned from that, obviously we have our non-negotiables, right? The things we are
Yeah.
absolute no's,
Right,
right?
right. Like safety is at
Yes,
risk.
for sure.
Right.
Don't compromise on those. But what I mean with this is, say for example, a red flag is this person is a poor communicator.
Mm.
Okay, well, let me address this with you. Hey, I really feel like your lack of communication, blah blah blah. Like, can we work on this? If that
Mm.
person is willing to work on what you deem as a red flag,
Mm.
cool,
That's a
But
great
if
point.
but if they're not, then that's creates the issue, right?
Mm.
Because
Yeah.
if we think about it, we all kind of have red flags. We all
Right.
kind of have things that, you know,
Yeah,
are
no, for
toxic
sure.
or not toxic or
Right.
whatever,
We all
or
need work.
exactly. And
Mhm.
so I think the key in a relationship is first have respect. Have respect for the individual. And if you have respect, I think everything else follows.
Mm.
And address the things that are bothering you.
Right, right,
Because just because it may feel like a red flag to you, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be a red flag forever, or,
right.
you know,
That communication is key.
communication, understanding, compromise.
Mm. What about vulnerability?
Oh, yes. Definitely being vulnerable. But again, we all, myself included, it's so hard to be there because you're opening yourself up to the possibility of being hurt,
Mm.
right?
You ever listen to
Brene Brown. Yeah.
Yeah. She's
Yes.
big on vulnerability, I
I
mean.
love her vulnerable. I've definitely recommended Brene Brown to
Right.
several people.
I love Renee Brown, yeah.
Super, super, super.
She even has a
Her.
talk on Netflix, I think.
Oh, does she?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
I.
they featured her. She did one specifically
Mhm.
for Netflix, but I know she has, like, some TED Talks and
She
stuff.
does, and then her book, Daring Greatly.
Yeah. She has a
Yes.
couple, I think.
Does she?
2
Okay.
or 3, yeah, but
Okay.
Daring Greatly is a
Mhm.
big one.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I love Brene Brown.
Yeah, that's definitely something I'm learning to do as well, moving forward in my relationships or like whatever, dating, is learning to really be vulnerable,
Mm.
and in allowing that person to come in, because I mean at the end of the day it's all a risk, right?
Mhm,
Um,
mhm.
but when you're not vulnerable, I've learned that the biggest risk is you lose out on something that can potentially be like really good.
Right,
Hmm.
right. Speaking of, risk, not being vulnerable, losing out,
Hmm.
um, you ever come across those situations
Yeah.
yet? Not putting you on the hot seat, but just
No,
throwing
yeah,
it out.
definitely. I think, on the other end, someone I'm interested in dating, they're, too scared to be vulnerable. Or even on my end, like I've been too scared to be vulnerable and I cut myself off and I don't really express myself and really let those walls down. And I've seen the damage it does on both ends,
Right.
for people.
So
And
really keeping that wall up could be like a form of self-harm in a way, in a relationship.
no,
You know?
yes, there was this thing that I saw the other day that says the same walls you build to protect you are the same walls that are blocking your blessings.
Right. Right.
And that to me, I was like, mind blown. I
So
was
how
like,
do we get those walls
wow.
down?
Um, I mean, I think that comes with a lot of self-work,
Mm,
self-reflection, really understanding your triggers. Where are they coming from? And knowing your core beliefs too at the end of the day.
right.
What do you tell yourself every
True.
day at the end of the day?
Right.
You know,
Right.
and because I think we tend to function off our core beliefs. Like,
Right.
if you are feeling that you are unworthy, you're gonna navigate the world with an unworthy lens.
Mm,
You're not gonna feel worthy of a good love. You're not gonna feel worthy of a good job. You're not gonna feel worthy much of anything. So again, doing that work, again, therapy.
I was gonna
I'm gonna
say, moral
push
of the
that.
story, therapy.
Go to
Sounds like therapy
therapy.
is a one-word answer. That's it.
That's yeah, just go to therapy. If you take anything away from this podcast, go to therapy.
Go to therapy now. Go sign up now.
Yes.
Let me put a referral link in the chat. No, I'm just
Yes.
kidding. I don't have one, but
Psychology Today. If you
there
need
you
to find a
go. Yeah,
therapist,
there you go.
Therapist Finder, Psychology Today, enter your zip code, and all the therapists in your area will be pulled up
Right.
with the little picture and bio.
Right. Exactly. That way you could read up before you make a
Yes.
decision. And remember, you don't have to go to therapy. If you don't have to be going through something, right?
Yeah.
It could just be just get a quick tune up. Get
Just
a
like you take your car to get a tune up. We
exactly,
need our tune ups too.
exactly. Get that mental workout in.
Yep.
Um, no, that's definitely a good point, right? For some reason we can't move forward in a relationship, and there's walls, and we
Mhm.
don't know what those walls are. We don't know what we want. Might be good to talk to somebody about
Mhm.
it to see, like, yo, what's going
What's going
on.
on? Yeah,
For some reason,
definitely.
there's this person, but I don't know what's wrong with me. But
Yeah.
talk to somebody
No,
about it.
literally. Like I say, like, if you're in your head and you don't get it out, it stays in your head, and what good has that been doing for you?
Right, right.
You know.
Or I mean, just journal it out.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Whatever your outlet is, but just don't
Exactly.
let it stay in your head.
That's the
Um,
monkey mind. We don't want all
yeah,
that.
no.
Yeah, I hear you on that. Kind of want to start transitioning. Kind of want you're an instructor,
Mhm.
professor, lecturer, whatever label we want to put on that. What is that like now? Right? You talked a little bit about it in the beginning, but
Mhm.
kind of diving into it, just experience just being in on the other side, right?
Yeah.
You going to school for 11, 12, however many years.
Mhm.
Now you're at that level where you're a professional, you're in your work for forensic evaluator. Now you're also an instructor at the university.
Mhm.
Grad program?
Yeah, graduate program,
So graduate
master's
program.
students.
Talk about that.
Yeah. So this is my second semester teaching. I taught last semester as well. I enjoyed it. Again, I did fake it. There it was my first. I've never taught anybody.
Fake it till you made it.
Definitely did. But I think what helped for me was I just brought my genuineness, my authenticity. I was real to who I am as a professional, as a professor, as a person, and bringing that into the classroom. So that's been really fun for my students to get to know me
Hmm.
on a different type of level, and bringing in real life experiences. And
Yeah.
so because I feel like at the end of the day, that's how they're going to learn. That's how I learned best,
Right.
especially in this field.
Like presenting those case studies.
Mhm.
I feel like that's crucial. I'm glad you brought that up. During my master's program, I've had some of my instructors were principals.
Mm.
Some of them were therapists. Some
Mhm.
of them mainly therapists and principals in my
Okay.
program, my master's program. Um, Yeah, they would always present case studies, like real life
Mhm.
scenarios, like, "Yo, this just happened yesterday.
Yeah.
What would you do?"
Yeah.
You know?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
that's what you do?
That's exactly
Okay.
what I do. Yeah, because I mean, I learned more so from real life experiences than any book ever taught me.
Right.
Um,
Yeah,
because you're not going to get a textbook case.
it's true.
You're really not.
It's true.
You can sometimes, but
Right.
yeah.
Even as a high school counselor, right, I get presented with times I don't remember covering this
Yeah.
in the program.
I know, right?
Where was this at? Let me look at my book. It's not in here.
Right.
Yeah, but no, it's like once you're in there, that's where the experience is at.
Oh, for
So
sure.
it's, kudos to you for
Mhm.
throwing that in your instruction.
Yeah.
But this is your how long you been doing that now?
Yeah, so this is my second
Second
semester.
semester.
Yeah,
Got
second
it.
semester doing it. I started last semester. The semester started in first week of September, went through December, and then we picked back up in January. So
Okay.
yeah, so a little, a few
Yeah.
months, not
You
not too long, but
yeah, and any like timeline on how long, or are you just kind of like as you go, you decide if you want to continue, or how does that look like for you?
yeah. So for now, I think I'm an adjunct professor, so I'm not
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I'm not core faculty. So I think for now, I'm just kind of going with it, seeing to my capacity what I can and can't, how much I can put on my plate
Of
and things
course.
like that. So for now, I see myself continuing to do it.
Mm,
I really enjoy teaching. I really, my students give me really good feedback, and
mhm.
they tell me that I'm doing well. I'm trusting that that I'm
I
doing
know, right?
well.
Hopefully they're learning.
And I do hope that they're learning and I'm bringing something valuable to them. So that I definitely do see
And
myself
what
doing.
class are you in? What class are you doing right now?
So this semester I'm teaching law and ethics in counseling, and then I'm also teaching forensic report writing and testifying.
Mm, interesting.
Yeah, so really really cool fun classes, ethics, a lot of case scenarios. What would you do? You're presented with this ethical dilemma, how will you handle it?
Mm,
Really teaching them to understand the differences between morals, ethics, and law, and how to navigate those things
wow.
within, ethical dilemmas that
Right.
happen. Yeah.
Sounds very exciting.
Yeah, it actually is, honestly. I mean, at least I make it exciting for
Yeah, there
them.
you go. I like that. I like that. Well, definitely wishing you the best with that.
Thank you.
I think it's awesome. I like, I've always thought about going because we can do classes at the high school level where we counselors
Oh.
do certain we can do classes we wanted to, but I actually did summer school classes, and as a summer school teacher, really cool, great experience. So I think doing on a college level, I can imagine with adults, and it's a whole different ball
Mhm.
game. But I liked it, I enjoyed it, so I imagine you're kind of getting a kick out of it
For
too.
sure. Yeah.
Cool. Want to transition to rapid fire questions,
Yes.
right? I'm sure you are familiar with rapid fire questions.
Yes.
For those of you who are not familiar with rapid fire questions are a set of questions that the guest does not know what questions or how many questions I am going to ask. These are random questions and they are to respond with the first thing that comes to mind. Okay. Are you ready,
I
Jackie?
am ready.
No pressure at all.
All right.
When does this work? No pressure. That's a heartbeat. Um, all righty, let me see here. Okay, ready?
Yes.
What is something that most people get wrong about you?
That I'm stuck up.
You're stuck up.
Hmm.
Okay, I didn't know that about you.
Hmm.
One thing that you know now that you wish you knew 10 years ago.
One thing that I know that I wish I knew 10 years ago is that people are come and go, but stay true to yourself.
Nice. What's one thing you are deeply grateful for right now?
Life and the
Mm,
ability to keep learning.
nice. I like that. What advice would you give to someone who is just starting out in your field?
I would say to no matter what comes your way, keep going. Um, Things are going to change. People are going to drop in and out of your life, and just don't resist. Just go with
Mm,
the flow and embrace the change.
I like that. Name three things that you can't live without.
My daughter, my phone, and coffee.
Coffee,
Hmm.
black coffee, cream, sugar.
Just creamer and coffee. No
Okay,
sugar.
I like that. One piece of advice that you want all listeners or viewers or watchers to take with them after listening to this episode?
Always be grateful and go to therapy. I'm kidding.
Right?
I'm kidding. I'm just shoving it down their
I
throats.
know, right?
No, literally, like I think just move with gratitude. I think just always be
Nice.
grateful in anything that you do.
I like that. I like that. Lastly, how can people get in touch with you if they want to connect with you?
Definitely through my Instagram. You can reach me at Jax Rocks. I would probably say that.
Okay.
Like the best, yeah.
Nice. IG. That's where the party's at.
Yep.
With that said, thank you, Dr. Sandoval,
Thank you
for
so
your time,
much.
for your work, for sharing, for your resiliency, for being vulnerable.
Thank you. Thank you.
You know, very happy for you and the direction that you're going in and all the work that you're doing.
Awesome.
Want to give a shout out to all of our viewers, watchers, Zoom attendees, sponsors, Mom's Cocina. Thank you for watching, for tuning in. Hope you were able to take something away. Yeah, Mom's Cocina Catering.com. You can reach out to Mom's Cocina Catering on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube. Shoot them a DM. Get some good food. All right, y'all. Peace.
Thank you.